small, let me see. You can drive out here for miles. Quiet roads, winter smiles, enough beauty to walk through the years. Especially when the holidays are near. It's a Midwest escape. Christmas vibes in every place. A little joy to guide your life. To find your way home in the twilight. We'll go see ice waterfalls and canyon walls. Hunt for a secret lake where winter hides in shade. Get our shopping done before the Christmas fun. See the lights and hear caroling fill the night air. It's a Midwest escape. Christmas vibes in every place. A little joy to guide your life. To find your way home in the twilight. It's a Midwest escape. Christmas vibes in every place. A little joy to guide your life. To find your way home in the twilight. Let's have a snowball fight as the day says goodbye. It feels like the best of our lives. One snowman before we go. Snow angels greet us as soon as we get home. We made it in time to watch the snowfall glow. It's a Midwest escape. Christmas vibes in every place. A little joy to guide your life. Enjoy your Christmas tonight.
All right. Good morning, evening, day, time and season, I guess. Good. Oops, I muted myself. Sorry. I'm gonna watch this here video. It's an interaction I had on JG's channel. I really just want to watch what happens after I leave because I end up leaving. So I don't know how long this will go on for, and I might just throw some commentary at it if I will. But it's late at night, so shouldn't expect a lot of people. And tomorrow is my anniversary with my wife. I've been with her like goddamn near 17 years now, I believe. Yeah, 17 years. That's crazy. So I don't know what to do with that. We'll deal with that when the time comes. Probably try to take her out somewhere or yell at her. We'll fight all day. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna start shit. It's not today, so I'm not gonna start shit when I wake up. But Thursday, I'm gonna start the most shit. That's what I'm gonna do. She won't even know. Anyway, let me go ahead and press play on this stupid thing. As I talk to like dead air, right?
Logos. He's the principle of reason throughout history. He's not a human character.
I don't think that's something to be disagreed with.
That's your point. Yeah, I agree. So you're saying these are stories about like a metaphysical Greek concept, not about some human from Galilee.
You don't disagree with him?
Because if it was from Greek, why is there Hebrew? Yeah, I'm meeting him on his level of his claim. I would disagree with him and his claim. That's what I meant by that. You're free to have that. I should have specified that more. I don't.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I'm very lax in the way I talk, man. I gotta be more verbal. I'll say things off because I'm like, no, you can have your ideas. Is all that I'm trying to say. I think I go into it a little bit more here. Who's involved? Let's see.
Like a metaphysical Greek concept, not about some human from Galilee.
No, because if it was from Greek, why is there Hebrews involved?
Because they were all written in Greek and they were using
Yeah.
Hebrew scriptures as a basis.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. So they are Greek concepts. Even if you want to buy the idea that Jesus was a historical person and that he was a Jew that spoke in Aramaic, the concepts are Greek. That's not argued. Like academia accepts that. Like the
Well,
people who
that's
believe
a-
Jesus was historical accept that.
That's what I mean, though. Like, what does that mean by like
Well, it would support
I mean,
the claim that
what I mean by that, like, I know that obviously Greek influence as well because Paul is writing in Greek, right? So I'm not denying that by that, right? Yeah, it is partially Greek, and
it just
that
supports his claims that it's more so a metaphysical concept than a historical identity or a personage.
right. But I think the identity goes into the Old Testament, right? Which is why I say why mention the Hebrews?
Yeah, so you're saying it's like an unfolding of prophecy or something that these people were foreseeing the arrival of Christ.
I mean, there's nations sewed in, right? And then you're saying the Greek nation sewed in as well. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Well, no, I don't necessarily think it has to do with the Greek identity, right? Like when you say Greek nation, what do you mean by that?
Like the nations, like and if you think about the whole Tower of Babel and the allotted nations and how God has His own. So that's why I'm saying if you're taking it off from the story context, then the Greeks would be their own nation and incorporate, kind of like how Persian and Babylonian and all them were used as vessels at one point for the Lord to get His will done. Is all I'm trying to say.
I think chronology is important here because the timelines don't support that view, right? Like the Greek concepts come well before the Hebraic religion. That one precedes the other.
Another thing that's not recognized is like Hebrews going into Greek and intermingling there, and then spreading the logos. As much as that sounds crazy, that's I think a thing. Something about what are they called? I think something with King Leonidas and him claiming to have Jewish identity. And again, chronology is probably off. I'm just saying, trying to point out to the ancient world that there was definitely the idea. So where can you? I mean, there's definitely ideas that are floating around. Where are you gonna say these original ones or come from? Their origin, just because it's settled in the story started in the land, does it mean that the story is from the land, or is it an import? Is all that I'm trying to say. But it looks like a native thing.
Right. So to look at it as some unfolding that the Greeks, some eschatology that the Greeks were fulfilling after the fact or whatever, isn't necessarily the case.
I know that. I think I mean, Greek anything much is involved with the Phoenicians and all that. So it's kind of hard to say because there are present there. I'm not going to deny that they are there within the Bible.
Like the Atrahasis or something, right? Sumerians, right? Why do those motifs precede
I think of it like the same way. So like if you think of it on a spiritual level, then these are given reigns of authority that God has given over to dominion. And it's just something if your rulers know the story, then they're probably going to twist and manipulate it. And they're probably going to play off of that as well. Because again, it's part of the ongoing will of God. And so they have their own nations and they do some things that are towards the good and things that are towards the bad. But each one's have their own judgment. But when God comes in the judge, again, that's when God comes in the judge. And then there's nothing that anyone can do when God comes in the judge. It's kind of like when the hierarchies of their own come into roost. So that's kind of how I take it, like in this, I guess if you want to say metaphysical, spiritual sense. Like God has complete authority over that because He's allowed it. And each story of all the other nations are just allowed because of it. They all chime back to Christ. They play off the myth, right? But they can't be the identity because the identity only belongs to one.
I buy the identity thing. I just don't necessarily place it in the Christian mythos or whatever, the Christian historical narrative.
Are you more of like divine spark, a demiurge, or something akin to that? Like there's also the supreme being type of thing.
My views are very nuanced and complex. Yeah, demiurge, the one, yeah, those are like synonymous terms for me. I wouldn't say I'm some part of it. I don't believe in a one or whatever. I don't believe in a creator. Okay. I don't think a creator is an ontological possibility.
Would you say you're like would you say you're a theist or a deist?
Yeah, like probably more aligned with something like polytheism or like, are you familiar with Leibniz?
I've never heard it. Nope, the first time I heard it.
He wrote a work called Monadology. It's the idea that like things, the true being is comprised of ones, a bunch of monads that are irreducible and indivisible. And the being is eternal. It's not something that's like when he mentioned Heraclitus earlier about John identifying Christ as the Logos. That's a pre-Socratic term that John pulled from Heraclitus, which describes becoming. He calls it flux. It's like this universal metaphysical fire that changes things, changes forms over time. I would deny that. I would say that becoming is an illusion, that time and temporality are illusory because they're not permanent, and that the self is something that is permanent. The thing in you, the individual, the absolute individual that is Noel, beneath the layers of what Noel thinks he is, that kernel, we would say that thing is a monad, or it's indivisible, and it's uncreated. It's eternal, right? There's no beginning or end. There's no like birth or death in being. So if you're a being, then you're uncreated. We would say that the what you call God, capital G.
You see, that's where I get into weird paradoxical bullcrap, because like he says like there's no Noel, which is identifying to my name, but then even within that self, that name has meaning. And how can you have creation if it's a sense of being birth? Then you have a form of creation. And so even if he's saying all these modalistic ones make up the grand one, it still seems like there needs to be a front runner to get the final say and make all the decisions. It just and then at that point, either A, this God has hidden himself from the group, and you're back in Gnosticism. You're back in Gnosticism, and the ones are nothing more than I forget what they're called. Archons, I believe, or something akin like that. I forget. It's been a while since I've brushed off on my Gnosticism. But you just go back to the Archons. And there's still a deity above that. So it's kind of silly if you think about it. And then everyone's like, oh, we're just whatever. But I derail a bit. But yeah, like things have meaning. So like the name Noel can mean Christmas, which also means birth. But even within himself, Christmas, like it signifies a specific birth, and that's the birth of Jesus Christ, right? It's not anyone else's. It's that. So it's really dependent upon these things. Like you wouldn't have these words if it wasn't for these events so-called taking place. Unless it's very well fabricated. And yeah, let me continue on.
God or God is also an uncreated thing. It's a pretty nuanced philosophy, but I mean that's pretty much the backbones of it.
Yeah, it's when I was talking about my naturalistic Christian view, it's like it's almost on par with that, where the only way the bridge to that is life itself, like the way that God's identified as being alive, and the fact that in reality that's what we are, and we express being alive mythically within our own self, and we express ourselves, right? We give ourselves tags, names, and all these things, right? Brands, everything's built upon the same imagery, which goes into identity, and God has placed His identity within all of us to recognize, like you're saying, which I do think comes with His the Son, and again, you could say that there are many forms to this path, whether it's all because if it either leads to the same road or not. You can't have multiple different split off endings. That doesn't make sense because again, it's not one.
Well, I would deny one. I don't think you can have one. I don't think that's ontologically correct, right? So like if things are being and they're eternal, that means they can't be created. They're uncreated. So if you are an individual, right? This is a precept though. I'll give you that disclaimer. This is a precept, but there is a sort of rationality or logic behind my presupposition. We could go into later if you wanted to. I don't want to waste time or anything, but
I think
if there are a many, right, and not a one, if you actually believe that you're an individual, then we have a problem, because if you are an individual and you have a spirit or an eternal part of you, then you're uncreated. So there's not a one, there's ones, plural. There's monads. There are many of them and they're indivisible. So for some deity to claim that he's the one or it's the one, I would say is a sort of deception, like a grand deception.
I don't think there's that's actually a big problem, because you can get on all parts of it, everything he's saying, and all these ones make up the unit. Well, if there still has to be at least one important character, right? One that gives motion to all. You'd have to have that. It couldn't just be all these parts can do things synonymously because they're all independent upon each other. And because they're independent upon each other, there must be at least one thing that they're dependent on that works in tail for all of them. And that to me just seems like life in motion within itself and the ability to put those things into rest. So if there would be one of the many who could do this, it would still be that God. And again, if he's part of this group, he still would be supreme because he has the ability to do things that the other group cannot, which is their motion. Without this one, there is no motion. That's just how I'm framing it. Like that doesn't make sense to me. It seemed really cool, and I'd love to get on board with it, but I can't. It seems impossible. Or maybe I should say we can't. That seems impossible. A necessary one because there isn't a one. There's a lot of unity in it. Again, it's not alone to one because there is a bride to be sought.
Yeah,
Right? There is a bride and there is a union. Right, two become one. That isn't for nothing. That's why there's a separation between now and then. But that one is the Spirit of God, and I can agree. Again, there's 7 spirits of God even within the context of the 3. So there is. I can get what you're saying, even in that regard.
Well, why does it stop at 7? Right?
I think it goes into the posturing of what evil defines and what isn't of God. And the material world is a place that evil has been led to corrupt us. If there was a point, it was at the garden where things misaligned. If we want to go to like a paradise Eden type of ideology or something akin to that. And I'm talking about even with death.
So I'm guessing you believe that you're created.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. So
I would say that
you
the
admit,
spirit, that the light that I have in me would still go back to God.
so you believe in a one, right? Like you are actually just God, and God is LARPing as you for now.
No, I think I'm a vessel, and God will speak to me whenever He speaks.
But I'm saying when you die, when you said you go back to the one, right? Are you
If I go back
absorbed?
to the one,
Yeah, if you do, how does that look? Like describe that to me. Are you absorbed into him? Are you around him, hanging out? Are you in a place that's a part of it? Like
It's
how do you
here.
describe that?
it's here.
Well, yeah,
We're already there. Like we're already there. Like we're not as much as right. You said times in the illusion. We're already there.
yeah.
It's just
I
the
agree with that.
experience. We haven't reached that experience yet. And once we've reached that experience, either we're identified in Him or we're not identified in Him. And if we're not identified in Him, there is no us to be there.
So if you go back to the one, right,
Mhm.
and you're calling it the one, which by definition means indivisible, right? Unity and one are two different terms. Unity implies that there are parts that comprise something that seems whole, right? Like a car. I call it a car until I pull all the parts off of it, right? And then I start to identify it by its parts. I would say that's a wheel there, there's a flywheel, there's a piston, there's screws, nuts,
Yeah.
bolts, right? So we can agree that one and unity are two different terms, right?
No,
So one and
I
unity.
cannot. I cannot. You want to know why?
Yeah, explain.
Because it all depends on how that idea of car came about. If that idea came from one mind, then those parts that came in to make that car came from a one, and everything goes back to an individual.
Yeah, no,
one.
Okay. So that's good that you're following that line of thought because that supports where I'm about to go. So you believe that all those things ultimately can be reduced back to a one being, an indivisible being. You're basically identifying yourself as a drop inside of the ocean. The real being is an ocean, and you're just a drop of it for now until you return to the ocean.
Sure, yeah. If you want to use the Odo from Star Trek,
Yeah, so you're not.
yeah.
So that
That's
means you
cute, yeah.
forfeit your individuality. That means you are
Right.
not an individual. God is actually just LARPing as you. He's wearing a mask called Noel right now.
to some things, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I would disagree. I would say that's where our precepts and our ontology parts ways. I would say that I'm not a part of some. I'm not just a fictive expression of the one. I'm actually an individual. I'm separate from that being that you call God or the Creator. I'm not created by anything. I'm uncreated. My body is created. My soul is created. And the problem is that I'm deceived into identifying myself with those things. But the thing underneath those, the body and the soul, the spirit, that thing is the real me, and it's incorruptible. It's indivisible, and that thing is that's where I come from.
I get what you're saying. I don't know if I can. I get what you're saying. I don't know if I can identify with that thing. I can understand being around it and knowing. This is why I talk about having an awareness. You can be aware, but you don't know if you know. You can play the part of Christian, but you don't actually know if you're one until you're saved. You don't get that until you get the experience. You can call yourself.
Yeah.
You can have a saved experience, but you won't know until you're saved. Like until that day comes, right? Until you're at judgment.
Yeah,
That's my framework. So that's the death, right? That's the ultimate authority. That's the horizon that I spoke of about atheists having to meet. They meet a death called. They meet a God called death. And just as Tejan calls the quantum field a God, I understand in that principle and power, death is a God in that principle and power sense that atheists all have to face. We all face that.
yeah. I would say there are ideas and concepts that can help you through that, though, right? Like, so have you ever heard of something called the Epicurean paradox?
It actually sounds familiar.
About the
I've
problem,
heard of it.
the problem of evil and the problem of a perfect God, usually when people say God, especially in the Abrahamic religions, what they're trying to define or describe is an all perfect being. He's perfect, and we're not. The subjects of that God are imperfect compared to his perfection. Epicurus would define it as omnipresent.
Okay. If you think of it like this, if you're alive and that God is keeping you alive, as in like you're alive, and you're supposed to be functioning as alive and you haven't met the curse of death, then that is perfect in every sense of liking. You are perfect because you are alive still. It's when you're dead that you're no longer perfect. Actions lead to your death. That's all. Like bad actions is what I'm saying, not actual action. Sorry about that. People are gonna quote my. Oh, he said the thing. He said it. The fucking faggot. Kill him. They're gonna string me up and shit. But that's all right. But no, like your decision into making bad actions is what kills life. And that in itself is not perfect. God can't kill himself. How could he? He's alive. You can't take life from life like that. It'd be impossible. There'd be nothing to ever be. And then there would truly be a nothing. And then that would be just weird because there could never be a thing again. Once there's the thing gone, I'd imagine there would, if there's ever a truly nothing, that would be really sad. Like that's the worst. Because there's nothing. It's not even sad because it's nothing, right? You only get to imagine sad. You don't even get to do that. You don't get nothing. Can't even say nothing. It's like, what are we? What are we talking about? Like this experience, though. At least it's that, if there isn't nothing, so to speak. But even in that experience, it's nothing because it can mean so fucking little in this goddamn life. Even when there's good things. And that's a trouble. I rambled on for a bit. Let me go ahead and press play. I was going to mention something like there was something that it wasn't a long interaction. I went on to JG's to go talk to Ace, just to make my case and whatnot. And there was a point about like salvation of like forgiveness of sins. I'm like, aren't our sins already forgiven when because we're born again, our sins are forgiven, and that we're walking in that new man, and there's nothing to forgive when we reach that point of the new man, right? And that's something that he commented on. Was like a good point. So good little bronze star. I was gonna say gold star, but I'll take the bronze. Right, with a little spit, little dirt, little bent. They bent it a little bit. Here's your fucking star. But that's all right. Let me press play.
Omniscient and omnipotent. That those three omnis complete the perfect God. But he starts with his launching pad is the acceptance of evil, right? So like his interlocutor, he has to agree with him that evil exists in the world. Do you agree that evil exists in the world?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Platonists didn't. Their way out of this was to say that evil is actually nothing. It's privation. They would say that it's like a shadow. Like a shadow isn't a thing. It's actually just the consequent of a light hitting an object. Like a shadow seems like it's there, but it's actually nothing. It's privation. So that was their way out of this. And that could be your way out of this as well. And I'll give that to you. But if you want to play the game, we can just keep going further. So you believe that evil, right, is actually a thing. It has ontological existence. It's not just some shadow or privation. Well, if that's the case, we have a problem, right? That means that the creator of the world isn't perfect. And Epicurus's line of thought would go something like this. He would say, does God know of evil? And if he does, why doesn't he stop it? Well, the obvious answer would be that he's not all powerful enough. I'll break this down easier because without seeing like a flowchart or a diagram, this could sound confusing. So I'll give it this way.
I get it. I've heard like this bill 1,000 times. Keep going.
Cool. Okay. So, and I would love to hear a rebuttal too, because most people don't make it to the very end of the paradox, which is, in my opinion, it's inescapable. So you have three omnis, right? You have omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence. Okay. It seems like you can only have two at a time. You can't have all three. right? Because if evil exists in the world, let's just run through them, okay? You have all-knowing, and he's all-knowing and omnipresent, right? He's in all places. Or no, I'm sorry, all-knowing and all-powerful, right?
Right.
Okay, if he's all-knowing and all-powerful, that means he knows of evil in the world, and he has the power to stop it.
This is also something that gets silly. I'm back, by the way. Um, when when people go down this route of evil, right? And with the omnis, there's something to remember here. It's called a will, right? And what was Christ to the Father? He was the Son, but he was also obedient to the Father, right? And see, obedient goes a lot into power and things like that. So ultimately, like you said, evil does have an ontology. It does have an origin, and it did did exist. Does did, and it only exists in the form of disobedience, and that's what makes him powerful, because can God allow disobedience in order for there to be correction? Well, obviously, yes. And so that's how powerful he is, because he would have to allow the shadow of disobedience given free will. Like, it has to be there for will to exist. And for obedience to exist, you must have disobedience to counteract it. And there's repentance and disobedience set up for us, because we were led astray to disobedience. So it's something that we thought would sound good without realizing the full consequence of disobedience and what it meant, as in you die. Can't don't know if it's something new, you wouldn't know, right? So if death is a new thing, death has never happened, well, why would you be worried about it? You wouldn't know it. But that's not to say, in some cases, because a lot of people like to go to the whole evolution. No, Adam and Eve, so they must have knew some type of death eventually, right? Well, when Abel died, they knew death, right? Obviously, when that happened. So regardless of where you land on that map and the what you want to put beforehand, and whether or not death took place in forms of how do you call it, just by natural process and not by disobedience, is the key feature, because God ultimately still has authority over that, and like, it's beneficial for that things for the Son of Man to come. I mean, for us to have everything, right? And fossil fuels and get the things going and all that come from some of this stuff. And then people are like, oh, no. But anyway, let's not derail too much. Let me go back to the video. I just wanted to throw that out there. Not that I needed to.
But it still exists, so that means he's not omnibenevolent. So let's rearrange those three. He's omnibenevolent, and he's all-powerful. That means he's good enough to stop all the evil. He wants to, and he has the power to. But since it exists, that means he must not know it. So he's not omniscient. And then the last combination would be he's all good and he's all knowing, right? He wants to change the evil, and he knows of the evil, but it still exists. So that means he's not all powerful. He can't change it, right? So the rebuttals to this are, well, he wants to test you. That was the first response from the interlocutor, a Platonist. He would say, well, no, you don't understand.
I believe ETT goes here later. One thing, that's something I can't stand. No, it's not a test. It's literally, he doesn't test you, disobey me, right? Who would want you to do that, right? I'm gonna see. I don't know. Maybe some people do that, but it's crazy. I can't see that type of be disobedient, especially since given he gave the warning of to Adam and Eve. Didn't warn them about what had come by, just enough, don't eat it. And can't say it's a test for the serpent because it's outright disobedient and there's no forgiveness, right? If it was a test, you think he'd be forgiven. So there's that options. I'm sorry, kind of space it out there.
He's wanting to test his subjects to prove that they have faith in deity. Well, he asked the interlocutor, he said, well, isn't he omniscient? Doesn't he know everything? And he says, yeah. And he goes, well, then there's no reason to test. So the next rebuttal was, well, it's an evil thing. It's because Satan or this adversary exists, right? He creates this adversary. Well, he says, well, isn't he all powerful? Wouldn't he destroy that thing? And he says, yeah, he would. So then the next response from the interlocutor was, well, it has to do with necessity, right? In order to create a universe with becoming, there has to be polarity, contraries, and complementaries. There has to be a light and a dark, a hot and a cold, right? And he says to the interlocutor, he says, well, if God is perfect, if he knows everything, he's all powerful and he's all good, is it possible for that perfect God to create a universe without evil and those necessities of contraries and complementaries? And he says, yeah, because he's all powerful. So he's confused again. He keeps pushing the interlocutor further and further down the line. And he says, okay, well, it's none of those things. Actually, it's free will. It has to do with giving the subject the ability to think on his own. So his last response, his final response was, well, can the all-perfect God, all three of those omnis, can he create a universe that's good, that has no evil in it, and free will? And he pinned him down to that last question because he says no. And he goes back to the omnis and he says, well, he's not all-powerful. That means he can't create the world that is necessary or needed.
God damn, man, he has such a campfirey fucking voice. Like he sounds like a dude I spent some time in jail with. He was from Wisconsin. He was all the way up in freaking some Bufu, Egypt, Eureka, Illinois, right? Poor motherfucker. Hope he's doing well. I forgot. I think his name. I'm not gonna say his name, but I hope he's doing well. Like you could sit by a campfire. I was kind of hoping he would like go on and talk about like give a little story. Like I was waiting for like I could hear the fire crackle, and like the crickets in my head as he's talking because he's talking with such cadence. It's just silly anyway. Just cutting for commentary, I guess. Something that I thought was funny. Director's commentary, right?
Right, to lack or negate evil. So he says, yes, he does.
Oh, my poor back.
Right?
Ouch.
He takes it back. He says, yes, okay, he can create an existence like that. And then it becomes circular. He says, well, why doesn't he? And then it goes back to, well, he needs to test subjects, or it's Satan, or it's necessary to. There's this circularity to it. This is called the Epicurean paradox. It seems like, to sum it all up, it seems like the creator of the world, solely because of the problem of evil, is evil. Because he goes a step further and he says, well, I can tell you which combination of these it is. It's omnipotence and omniscience, because it takes power to create the world of forms. He shapes everything. He can change things at will. He makes the world, all the elements, chemical reactions, animal kingdom, the flora, the fauna, you, your body. He creates all these things, right? Christians would say he even creates you, your soul, your spirit.
There's something into that though. I think like if you're constantly, it kind of benigns the question. If you have to go back and edit your work, is that really perfect? You get what I'm saying? If God's constantly intervening and intervening and intervening, then how's that a perfect God? You get what I'm saying? Like if he constantly is doing that, that's not a form of perfection. It's forms of correction for us. But he can't be going around correcting us all fucking willy-nilly, right? And if he does, I mean, he practically does with the Bible. Everything gets what's it called? The buck gets passed, right? The buck has to get passed. And so, right, that's something in itself. If you're obedient, then he's already perfect. There's nothing more for you to gain except for your obedience and your thanks, right? Because there's nothing for him to want or to need. There's nothing for him. He doesn't even need a thank you. That's the brilliant part of it. Now, the question is, does that mean that Something about love. I forgot where my brain was going. My brain got all twisted because I mentioned the L word. Love. Um, it's so feminine, so masculine. The love. Um, I wonder about that because considering the whole bride talk, or probably again, what is it? Because it said he does say it's not good for man to be lonely to Adam when Adam is by himself. Now he's God; he can be by himself all he wants. He's fucking God. So I'm talking about in the sense for the son in achieving for the bride. Who's going to be the perfect bride for the son, right? I guess that's kind of the thing is also where do you find an uncreated bride? If you're the only one, where do you find an uncreated bride? Maybe through some creation. Maybe that's the love return in feminine form. I wish I could understand that and know it and not just be like looking into it. It kind of reminds me like when I see my wife's hair in a ponytail. Um, and just like when I get mesmerized like that, uh, is that type of love? Just like in those moments, it's like I could be paused there forever and just stay. And it's only for a split second. But it's like, I don't know, the world stops or some shit. And I can just recognize like the love I have. Sometimes I get like that with my kids too. Like when I'm checking in on them, but the feeling doesn't stay. And I wish it didn't go away. And I wish I could stay in that position. But I'm just rambling on now. But yeah.
So he's obviously omnipotent,
Oopsie.
and he obviously knows all things because he's everywhere and can observe it to make these changes. So he must be lacking omnibenevolence. This is why most of the Gnostics were Gnostics, was because they couldn't recognize or spot the justice, the concept of justice in the Creator. So they saw him as malevolent and not benevolent. But yeah, that sums up the paradox.
Well, that begs a lot of questions.
I think something that it forgets is the fact of the difference between being created and uncreated is its own problem. And then false guardianship between, like you said, the Satan, right? And the
So-
act of free will, because God in itself is the hatred of evil. And that in itself, it doesn't do evil because he never needed to. And evil is defeated in his own time, and there's no one standard that he has to apply himself to except for his own. So all these questions of, well, God can do this and that, he does it on his own time.
So how does his creation?
I forgot to say that the world's already perfect. Like creation's already perfect in obedience, right? The rest of creation's already following suit. It's that in which is disobedient is where you find evil. Now, are you going to have disobedience in a sense of ignorance? Impossible. How can you be disobedient to something you don't know you're being disobedient to, right? You're breaking laws you don't know about. Now, that's separate between God's forgiveness and you breaking laws you don't know about. So there is I think a slight distinction. But where the line gets drawn, I don't actually know. If that makes sense. Let me go ahead and press play.
have imperfection in it, right? Like let's
That's
say
the whole
you
little
are-
uncreated. Look at that.
More-
He can't
more
create
video.
something. He's already the most perfect thing by being uncreated. He's unblemished. By being created automatically sets a hierarchy. I am different. I am set apart.
but
But I am with you because he is life.
but you agreed earlier that you are it. You're a piece of God.
It
He
resides
fills
in me, yeah.
Yeah. So you are actually just a part of the one.
I could say that, but I hope so.
So if
yeah,
you're-
how are you going to make a distinction? An
I make my
identity?
decision to baptism in that sense with sealing. Oh, sorry.
I like that. I like that. I hope so, right? I hope there's God in me or something like that at times, and I'm not just delusional, and we're all just not delusional. That would be very sad and depressing. For all walks of life, for the atheist and the freaking Christian, it doesn't even make sense. And for the other people too, and their weird stuff. What I mean, like, and what I mean by God, let me go all around the block. What I mean by that, if there isn't any at all, not just a Christian, I just mean in any. At least if there's like some form of evil God, there's that. But like, if there's not even that, then that's just F to begin with. This accident of life is just freakishly that. And then there's really nothing, I guess. Let me just press play. Womp womp. Sad boy time. Pardon me. Sorry, JG.
Oh no, I was talking to you. If you're gonna say you're part of God, I'm kind of agreeing with the sentiment of a hostile
Ah,
here.
fuck.
When you try to
Sorry.
make distinctions, it's
Forgot
going to become a
something.
problem.
Well, in the same breath that Satan was a part of God, and he was in the garden. I
How
mean,
does that
it's the
work,
same
right?
breath.
How does something like the adversary emanate or come from or is a part of God, right? How does that work?
By creation, he has life in him.
But I'm saying he creates it, right? Like an artist creates a painting, right? It's like a part of him. Like what in God's essence is adversarial if he's all perfect and omnibenevolent?
It's not within his essence. That's within the creation.
Right.
It's the flesh. That's why they
So
say it's the flesh.
Satan is flesh.
It seems like he couldn't handle it. No.
No, I'm saying
No,
you were saying that
Satan might be
Satan is fleshly. He's a corporeal being.
Well, no. Well, yeah, in some sense. So the Holy Spirit's called corporeal when it takes the form of a
So,
dove.
for instance, in Job, right, when the adversary is speaking with El Shaddai, how does that happen? Is that some guy on earth like meditating or something and traveling to speak with God, or is he next to God? Like, is he actually like a metaphysical, incorporeal being?
Probably a metaphysical and corporeal. Whatever the spiritual realm of,
Well, he's a
Not
fallen
flesh,
angel.
though, right? Not fleshly.
He's classified as a fallen angel.
Where does it say that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it actually says that, but that's the idea that he's not human.
He's not fleshly. I'd agree.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a
I was-
problem there.
I wanted to
Well,
pull you
no,
back.
that's not because you even said because these things can't take corporeal form.
I wanted to pull you back.
That's
on-
not an issue for spirit. The Holy Spirit became a dove, and no one bats an eye. And now you're batting an eye at freaking.
No,
at
I
freaking-
do. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Christians don't. Yeah, Pentecostals don't. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's
hostile.
obviously
I
something
about.
go ahead.
I wanted to ask you something about the idea that you're bringing up earlier about the omnis.
Yeah.
Have you ever? Has anyone ever brought up partial limitation of power to you?
No. Maybe, but not those words. Explain it.
The idea that an all-powerful God has also the ability to partially limit his power if that's his will. It's what complicates.
Yeah, no, I have heard that, and that's
I wonder if partial limitation goes into the idea of allowing disobedience. Because you get what I'm saying? If someone's out there, I don't know. I think that says one viewer. If disobedience itself is a partial limitation, right? Because, like, you get what I'm saying? You can set up laws and rules and follow these, but if no one follows them, then and everyone's choosing to be disobedient because they're pretty like strict rules. I don't know. Can't eat as soon as you wake up, some stupid shit like that. Or you can't go to the bathroom until like an hour after, or some stupid shit, right? I'm just trying to make up something arbitrary right now. That just hits the point, so it's not as arbitrary. But that's not going to work because it's arbitrary. So, whatever random example that we use, how do we say that is a partial limitation when it's supposed to be how do I want to put this? Part into your given ability. So it's not dysfunctional for you to be disobedient. It's part of the function, right? Things are supposed to collapse because God has designed them to collapse. Kind of like a failsafe or something like that. Call it that, right? Wouldn't you put a failsafe into your system from spreading corruption? So, in some sense, there's these failsafes. And if the failsafes are failing, then there's still the God who is given the life and everything he's doing in his power to keep that life. Now, if you're deciding against that power, are you then more powerful than God? If the very thing that when you do die or destroy life goes back to him, are you really limiting his power? I would say no. That's not limiting. That doesn't make you more powerful than God. I can't see it. I could see it in like an ego sense, I guess. So yeah, oh, I can feel powerful because I'm getting one over at God for the moment. So maybe for the moment you can have more power than God when you resist and are disobedient. If that isn't even a thing, right? Or I'm sorry, if that even is a thing. Because again, if there's no God, then what the frick are we even talking about here? It's just silly nonsense. And it sounds cool, and let's keep talking it, I guess, because it sounds cool. What else are we gonna do? I don't know. I'm just being silly. Too hard. I gotta stop doing that. Keep stabbing myself in the back.
Explained in the paradox, right? Because it says like, well, the problem isn't that he can limit his power or not. The problem is that evil exists in the world. So that would
Well,
ruin his omnibenevolence.
when somebody says evil is a problem,
Yeah.
they have to establish a foundation of what evil is and how it exists, right? In order to actually make that argument. I'm not saying
Yeah.
you're making that argument, but in order to do that, you would have to establish those things. If
No,
you were,
I am making that argument, but I
Oh, so
think
you're
you may have
saying
came- you may have came late, but I brought that up to Noel, and I did allow that to him, right? Because the Platonists, that was their way out of the Epicurean paradox, is they said that evil was a privation. It's like a shadow. It's not a real thing. It has no ontological existence.
the absence of good.
Exactly. Like the absence of light is a shadow. Yeah. I would disagree with that. I would say evil is actually an ontological thing. It's a
Well,
real thing.
From your worldview, how can you account for that? How do you make sense
Yeah,
of that?
because evil actually occurs within the intent of an individual, right? So like it comes out of the deepest parts of the will, the deepest
It's the
recesses
opposite of will. It's disobedience.
Are you okay?
That's
Hold
what
on a
it is.
second.
It's just
Hold on a second.
disobedience, which is why it's considered a rebellion.
Well, yeah,
These are-
that's because that you believe in free will, right? Well, that's the individual having ontological evil. He has an actual
Oh, cool. I can't believe I even mentioned it there in that little passing about the whole disobedience. That's awesome. I didn't realize I did that. I was extremely tired. I was staying up. I had stood up from it was like 12:45 when I woke up the day prior, and it was running close to like about 10:30 at the time or 11:30. But I was like dead out of it, and I haven't been getting. I have actually. It's weird. I can't. It's weird. I haven't. I've been getting really good sleep, but it hasn't been affecting me. I haven't been benefiting from my sleep. I'll share this. It was fucked up the other day. I had a messed up. I guess you can call it nightmare. It was a cycle of nightmares where, I had a dream about going back to the hospital. Like I was voluntarily going back to the mental hospital, and I was going there to seek help. And then I forgot that when you go there, they keep you there for days, right? They don't just let you come and visit or whatever. You gotta stay there, whatever. And I flipped out. So I kept in my dream, I freaking was trying to force myself awake or some shit. And I'd wake up and then I'd fall back asleep. And then I'd be back in the and it freaked me the fuck out. I hated it. And I had nightmares when I was in the freaking place too. I had such lucid, vivid fucking dreams, and it would freak me out. And so that was not a fun 2 nights ago or whatever that was. And yeah, I haven't been benefiting from the my cat naps and stuff that I usually take that I enjoy. Yeah, so there's that, I guess.
thing in him that is evil, not like the ignorance of good or whatever. Because
Well,
he has to act these things out.
doesn't the ignorance of good fall into evil though? If you think about it,
It does. It is. That does fall into the category.
So-
but I
so
wouldn't
it-
identify evil as the ignorance of good, which most
Well,
Platonists do.
the
And
thing
occultic.
is though, it sounds like you're seeing it both ways. Like you're saying, I do identify the ignorance of what is good as
Well,
evil.
What I'm saying is evil isn't dependent on ignorance. Ignorance of good can fall under what we define as evil, right? Like pedophilia can fall under.
Well, that's what I
real
wanted to ask you.
ontological-
That's what I wanted to ask you about evil. If you were going to make a case that's parallel to Epicurus, or take it on as your worldview, essentially, maybe there's variations, I don't know, but in order for you to argue against evil in the biblical sense, you have to have a foundation for what evil is, why it exists, and how it exists, and how you know that epistemology. And then on top of that, you're going to have an ethical component to move your argument into how you're addressing your interlocutor and expressing influence of what he ought to think and how he should think. That's implied within the speech.
No, it is a precept, right? You have to pick. It's kind of like a fork in the road dilemma.
What's a precept?
The ontological existence of evil. You can choose to believe that it's a shadow or not. You can take that path. You can.
I'm
And
not
then
asking what you can choose. I'm asking about the nature of evil itself. What is
yeah,
it?
yeah. You can wrap that around on anything virtuous or
According to who?
well, what is good? Is good the why
No,
not
no,
say
hold
that
on,
good is
I'm
the
asking
privation of
you
evil?
about the claim itself. According to who, you can wrap that around whatever you want.
Well, I wouldn't appeal to any authority on it. It's something that you have to.
So
figure
according
out.
to who? According to you?
Well, yeah, yourselves, right?
Okay, so it's your opinion.
It's not-
You have an opinion about evil this far.
Ultimately, it is presuppositional, but whether or not it is objective is something that you have to figure out, like, over time, right? Like, you can't. I would say that these things are unknowable. The thing, like Kantian,
Okay, so you're
things in
talking
themselves.
about things that you don't know about, and you're using knowledge claims to talk about these things.
No, I'm not making any knowledge claims. I'm
You're
not
not
saying
making any knowledge. Is that a knowledge
no.
claim?
No, I'm not
No?
saying this is epistemologically true, right? Like that you need to buy it as like empirical science or
Okay.
something.
Okay. Well, what is
What I'm saying is this
the
is
idea is to get to what is
ontologically.
true, right?
Well, yeah, I say it is, right? I would make the epistemological claim to myself, but I'm not like proselytizing. I'm not trying to tell you that this is something that you can pull out a measuring stick and figure out yourself, or that you can pull out a microscope.
Okay, good. So if you can't measure it, how do you know about
Well, no, not with a ruler, right? It's something that's internalized. It's sort of like, I'm sure you're familiar with gnosis and anamnesis, things like that. It's intuitional. It's something that which I would claim is a form of knowledge. It's not like empirical science, but it's something that you can come to know over time through experience.
Well, it's Platonic, right? The Into It.
No, this is anti-Platonic. But the idea of
But
presupposition,
intuition?
yeah.
Huh.
Well, no, the ends, right, where we say that evil is actually ontologically existent, that's anti-Platonic. Platonism would not agree with that. I could say the same thing about good. I could say,
Intuition. Yeah.
well, yeah, to a certain extent, right? But no, they were more, honestly, the reason we have empirical science and realism and pragmatism and, is because of Platonism. That's where it
Yeah,
came.
I'm
Like
saying that.
Aristotle was a materialist, right? Like he reduced his metaphysics to material things.
Who did?
Aristotle. And he was a student of Plato. He was kicked out of the academy.
Well, I mean, Plato wouldn't have been a materialist because
No, he wasn't. But my point
He
is
was
that
talking about-
Platonism birthed empiricism. It was the thing that led up. It was the domino that tipped over and led to what we have now, which is full-blown nihilistic materialism. So it's a part of the problem.
Yeah.
With concepts like the idea of privation, the idea that
privation, the absence of
the
good,
absence
right?
the absence of good is evil. Exactly. I could say that good is the absence of evil. Right? And who says that? Right? Who makes that epistemological claim?
Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox do.
They say that good is the privation of evil.
No, evil is the privation of good.
Well, yeah. Well, Christians say that, and Platonists say ultimately Christianity is Platonic. That's where they derive all their terms from in Greek. But what I'm saying to you is what you're asking me about proving the ontological or the epistemological existence of evil, right? That it's true that it's ontologically existent. I could say the same thing about the good. I could say, well, the good is just is an absence of evil, right? Or evil is the absence of good. That's what I mean. Evil is just the absence of good, and good is a shadow. It's not real. The good isn't real.
Yeah, possibly. I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
But you would make these claims that are not epistemological; they're presuppositional. You would say, well, the good has to be the most simple. You would take the same line of
Well,
thought as like
Can I throw
Plato.
something at you? Can I throw
Yeah.
something at you real quick? So would you say like there is no good? That goes into the same thing as like a hunter needs to bait a trap in order to get the kill.
No,
And
no.
hold on, let me finish. The good in that is that like the no good in that is that you're using something that seems like a miracle, substance that's supposed to give life, and then it's called like the causality for you to live is to take that life. And then that within itself, there is no good in that because it's depriving the only thing in which we have substance in.
No, it's going a little too. You're reading into what I'm saying too
Too deep.
deeply. What I'm saying is that all of them are ontologically existent. Good is existent.
I like that. He's like, you're going in too deep. I'm like, well, that's what I guess I'm at a deeper level than what he is, because that's where I'm at. Like, that's no good, right? There's not even good in this inner need to gain substance. We benefit from it, but it's not. I don't think it's a good thing. In that, and you can say that things are done humanely, but then there's people who gripe about those humane things because it's not humane, and there's whatnot, right? Either way, it just leads to some type of bad, poor argument of inhumanity and veganism. But even plants gets bad, right? Because that's another form of life in which you take. Unless you're eating things like things that bear fruit that fall. But even in that, it is the seed who gets spread on, and then you benefit from the fruit. So there's a trade-off there. And is the trade-off the same thing with the farm animals? So long as you leave one behind to continue, is that then the good thing? So traps aren't beneficial, but farming, in the agricultural and like farming sense, I don't know. I think I forget how it's called. I think it's just agriculture too. I think it's animal husbandry. It's a better way to agriculture and animal husbandry. Those two forms. So as long as you leave a remnant behind, then it's good. Is that good then? And if there is no remnant, then that's obviously the worst case scenario. I'll have to think about that more.
Evil is existent. All the vices and virtues are actually ontologically existent.
Yeah,
I'm not
I mean,
saying any of them are
but I
privation.
want to know how you know that.
Well, like I said, I already went through that. It's a precept. You have to choose a path. This isn't like a sitting on the fence deal. It's like a fork in the road dilemma. You have to choose
What is?
whether or not good and evil or any other vice and virtue are ontologically existent or not.
What do you mean by
Saying
existent?
you have to make a choice.
Yeah,
Therefore,
you can't sit on
you're
the fence.
justified in making a claim about them and whatever you think is fashionable.
When you say making a claim, what I think your meaning is that I'm telling you that it's objectively true in your world, right?
I want to know that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that can't be done. I can't give you that, right? But I will claim that for myself, right?
You
I'm
have your
telling
own
you-
you have your own truth.
No, it's not subjective. To me, it's subjective, right?
It's
But
not.
you're going to ask me how
subjective.
I can make epistemological claims, and I'm telling you that's where the hangup is that you cannot know it. It's kind of like the Kantian thing in itself. I know I'm a thing in itself, but you can never prove that I'm a thing in itself. It's
But
this unknowable, unempirical.
How do you know
knowledge.
that?
Because I am a self. I know
No,
that.
but you're saying that you can't know things for certain ultimately.
I am the thing in itself, but I can't know the other. I can't know the thing in itself apart from me. Like I don't know if a rock is a
Right.
thing.
You're saying the only. Aren't you saying the only things you're certain of is that you're
It
existing?
sounds like
ultimately?
it sounds like solipsism, right? A
Well,
form
no,
of
that's
hard
Kant.
solipsism.
I gave you the philosopher, right? The concept is Kantian. It's idealism. It's not solipsism.
You have an idea about self, though.
Yeah, I would say ideas are real. I would
I'd
say
say
that they
they're
are real.
axiom. Yeah, they exist, but they can also be faulty.
Well,
You
like
can know
Jay
that it's
says, how do
faulty.
you prove like Jay says, how do they exist? How can you prove to me that your ideas exist? I'm not going that far, but I'm saying, you see,
I mean, by
the
writing them
difficulty?
down and telling them to you, by all practical sense, and by doing all other forms to let you know, like practically telling you how.
But
that's how.
but that's virtual, right? That's like saying a video game. The thing on a video, the programming inside of a video game, the thing that I'm seeing on the screen is real or whatever. Like,
Your
that's not.
experience,
I don't think that's what Jay is meaning. I think he means how do you epistemologically prove objectively to somebody else ontological claims? How do I know something actually has being or permanency or actually exists? That's
Well,
something
I
you have to
mean,
figure out yourself.
at this point. But see, that's a knowledge claim about the matter right there. Like you're kind of saying you don't have an answer, and then you give an answer. You have to figure it out for yourself. So you're still making knowledge claims all
Yeah,
throughout.
that is the claim that I would say is objective.
Wait, so now you have an objective claim you just entered.
Yeah, I would say that you have to make epistemological claims for yourself. That is my claim.
Right, but how do you know it's objective and universal?
I wouldn't say they're universal.
Well, now you're retracted.
Well, no, I'm not. Not everyone can come into touch with objectivity. There are people that are.
How do you know?
fully
How do you
marginal.
know who can? How do you know who has that capability and who doesn't? And which
Because
one
the
doesn't?
world is full of subjective views.
I have
But that doesn't satisfy the question.
How does
I
that
think it
work?
does.
How does that work with like things like given revelations from other? Like, is that something like a part of the acceptance if it's something you receive, or because
No, you don't receive anything from somebody else. It's you. It's you. You don't get it from a church. You don't get it from a professor or a scientist. It's you who comes up with it. And
That
you can be
doesn't make
wrong.
sense.
And that's the part of the.
Yeah,
choosing.
like that doesn't make sense because in all that, if it was me, that's like saying I wrote the Bible myself because I wanted to choose the Bible. Like that's a factual impossibility. I can't choose my own God. I can't choose the belief in the shit that I have.
But
I
they
don't think I
do.
can.
That's why we have religions. We have different religions. They do that. People
yeah, some
disagree
people
on
do
their
that. I
gods,
won't-
and they say,
Yeah, I won't disagree with that, right? But still, I don't think that's from me. That's not intrinsic. My right. That's other people. That's borrowed.
"No, I'm not an atheist." ETT. I'm not an atheist. I'm not an agnostic. either.
AETT.
Yo, what's up? How's it going, everybody? So, real quick, I've been listening for a few minutes. Could you just explain to me what your position? You said you're not an atheist. So, what would you consider yourself, just so I'm aware?
There's really not a word for it, but the closest thing to it conceptually would probably be like polytheism, like that every spirit inside of a human being that I would. It gets nuanced, right? We can take hours to try to hash this out, like the philosophy behind it. But some human beings have spirit, some don't. The ones that have spirit, that spirit is uncreated and it's indivisible, and each one of those people are
What
have
do you
unlimited
mean?
potential. They have unlimited,
Okay.
absolute free individual
Okay.
will that's
But
potential.
like when you say, not to overtalk you, but just so I understand, when you say that some people are created with spirits and some are not.
Yeah.
So just so I understand, you're saying there's some people out here walking around, like say for instance, where I'm at, there's 50 people out walking around. So maybe 5 people here might not even have a spirit in them. Is that
Well,
what you're saying?
Historically, the way it's unfolded, no, not now. There would be a very small percentage, 0.000. It would be like your most far removed from civilization, like the most far, like people that haven't been discovered yet, that are hiding out in a forest somewhere or something. Maybe even then, that might not be the case because of some sort of contact in the past. But the Bible would even espouse this too, right? Like a pre-Adamite man or something, which I don't necessarily buy, but I'm just saying that there are religions that espouse this too.
Well,
Like
let me understand though. Like when you say they don't have a spirit in them, what is that spirit though? Just so I understand.
Yeah, the spirit is indivisible. It's eternal. It comes from a where, not a who. right? Like you are a part of this eternal place. For lack of better words, let's just call it the origin, not source. Like I'm not implying that you are created from it. I'm saying that you are it. You're there now, but you're trapped in a body and you suffer from like an amnesia. You think you are your body. You think you are from the world. You think you're birthed. Those kind of things. You believe that you are becoming, not a being.
I know, man. That last one with "you think your birth" is kind of drawing the lines of red flag there, bro.
Yeah, you're not birthed, right? Like you see it in the material world. It's very old. Zeno, I think, solved the problem, but it relies on a heavy idealism. You have to throw away the idea that the material world is real at all. It has no permanency. So like the idea of the chicken and the egg, or that the seed in the tree, right? Like you can think about a baby and a mom, right? That just doesn't work out. Like logically and reasonably, intellectually, it doesn't work out. How does a baby become a mother without a mother? How does a mother
Man,
become a
it
mother?
sounds
without
like you're
being a mother?
talking about that artificial reality. Is that
Yes,
equivalent with what
yeah,
you're
and
saying?
most people attribute that to something called the capital God, God, right? And they call it the creator. It comes into contact with an eternal substance that Aristotle would call the prima materia. Older alchemists would call it the same thing. This prime matter. It's eternal. It's malleable. You can make stuff out of it, and he plasmates it with his mind. There's like this. It's like panpsychism. He shapes
Like
the
squaring
form.
the circle, I can get that. I
He
understand
creates
that.
the forms with his spirit, and he enlightens them. Now there
Well,
are
what would
And-
you say that
would
force
you
is,
would you
though?
say like the deep in the God terms like a giant scouring wherever I can't pronunciate it, but the thing that people do with the Black Mirror, scrying,
Scrying.
yeah, I can't
Yeah,
pronunciate it.
yep. You looks at the waters and he scries into them, right? He plasmates, he projects with his gaze all the unfolding of all the archetypal monads. In Greek, they call it entelechy. He basically places a seed. You could call it like genetics or the DNA, right? The proteins and all organic matter and all inorganic matter is also shaped to a certain degree, like rocks and stuff like that, because they're made up. They have a chemical composition. He makes that, right? But then the thing,
And it's the shape of eternity, essentially, in which they're looking at, and then the shape takes form at the end, with combining in the realm in which they're in, which is the heaven.
I
Something
don't know
like
if I understand. No, it's not eternity. We would call it infinity, and there's a distinction there, right? Because he can keep changing it. He adds into it, right? Not the
well, that's like
substance itself.
Mormonism. I get what you're saying. I'm just not comparing in a bad way. I'm just saying I get what you're saying. Like creation's ongoing, and if you want to call it creation, I get that.
Yeah, it's unfolding. It's evolving. Yeah, but that's fake. It's an illusion. You're actually a
Wait, but
spirit.
hostile. Just so I don't get confused, are you a Bible believer, or do you believe in some other
No,
text, or
no.
what?
I would say like I started out as a Christian heavily for years, and then worked my way to like a sort of Christian mysticism, some kind of like occult Christian, and then
Well, what
through
would you
more
say changed your mind about it, though? Just out of curiosity.
philosophy, figuring out more about ontological arguments, metaphysical arguments.
Told you
Of
about
the old,
logic there, JG. Sorry, just pointing that out, man.
like the old church fathers were Platonists, and I got heavy into Platonism and the early theologians that were shaping Christianity. And then the Neoplatonists was where I really had a problem. I was trying to get to the one. I believed that there was a creator. I believed I was created, and I wanted to figure out how to get back to it, like a theosis or a what Platonism would call henosis, like trying to return to the one, right? Like I wanted to figure out the method. And the more I tried to do that, the more I figured out that the one is actually not a thing, because you can't reduce it to something that's indivisible, besides admitting that you are also indivisible. It's called the problem of universals in philosophy, this idea that there's a one and the many. How do you resolve that, right? Well, they're not the same, right? It's one of those fork in the road dilemmas. You can't sit on the fence and be like, well, it's one and many. It's either one or many. And I chose the path of saying, no, I'm actually an individual. I'm not some Borg or, some puppet where the one is actually just LARPing as me. And if that's the case, you can kind of look at it as like a Pascal's wager as well. If I am the one, then whatever I'm doing doesn't matter, because I'm just gonna, when I die, I go back to the one. I'm him.
Yeah, you have. That's a weird.
How do you go back to what you already are, though?
Yeah, you don't. Exactly. That's my point, is that it
guess-
doesn't really matter if I choose the other path. But what does matter is if I'm right that I'm an individual, then I can start working on escaping from
That's
identifying with
kinda-
the one.
That's kind of like sounding like what you said there. It's like being born again, right? Like that's the same question that's asked. Well, how can you be born again? And again, the answer is through understanding and identifying the one, and coming into light, and like you said earlier, being absorbed into that.
Yeah, they would call that theosis, the baptism through water, in some cases fire, and then having full faith in the Holy Spirit to save you.
But then again, like people complain about God's silence, and silence is when you think he speaks louder.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, that happens. There are different schools of thought on that, for sure.
But just so I understand, you're still saying that you believe that there was a creator, though.
Yeah, but it
Correct.
doesn't create your spirit. That's the deception. You think you are created. You're identifying with your body and your soul, which are temporal things.
I was gonna say earlier, it also sounds like you're having this point of free will, but also no free will because everything's
Yes.
determined. It's very
Yes.
paradoxical.
It is.
Which I get what you're saying, because it's like the will of the many, which would in your case be this stand-in also for God, is already determined in what the outcome is, essentially.
Well, no, the many and God are not synonymous. God is one part of, he's a part of the many, right? Remember, they're ones, they're monads. The many are not collectively God. The many are collectively a where, not a who. We would call that where the origin.
Yeah, this goes back to what I said earlier in this stream, about everything of that many would need to reside into something that is that a one, like that would have that like give all motion, and in this case, if it's life, then it's life that's giving life to the divine council, right? It makes sense that life would give life to the divine council so that they could do whatever, and life would then have to be everywhere. I mean, it really it unifies it within itself. Now, and with that, then you have the whatever else you have with the creation if you want, but it doesn't make sense because if you still have this one who is holding everything else alive, then what is that? You can't escape that. It's inescapable, everything from his grasp. Like even death is given time, because if he has no position into nothing left to give, then what is that? He also, right? Because this death is also a power that only exists in contrast when life gives up on matter, because we're not even talking about like actual entities anymore. So how is death personified as birthing? Like how could death be given motion when it puts things to rest? Is another thing, and perhaps goes with decay, if you even want to call that death or deaths for that instance, as probably you'll get in many underground pantheistic underground dwellings. When you look at those, they get interesting as well, because God would have to also be in the underground, keeping them alive there as well. So it's weird when like people like universalists say that there's no hell, but if there's things alive down in hell, then God is keeping them alive. And it denies the authority of God in the place like that. It's like everyone forgets. It's silly. It's just silly. Let me go ahead and continue with this.
It's not a who. You don't go back to a being, or else you are absorbed into the will of that being. You identify with the will of that being. You're a Borg. You're a puppet, a robot.
I don't understand that.
It's what you mentioned earlier about the obedience, and ignorance is the disobedience, right? Well,
Yeah, but no, obedience. A puppet can't obey. A puppet doesn't have a choice to obey. It does. A puppet doesn't get to say no.
well,
There's a choice to make.
this is, you got to understand, this is really nuanced, right? So what I'm
No,
saying
I
is
don't think
I
it's
agree.
nuanced. I mean, you can't have.
No, I
have
agree with that. I agree with that.
you
What I'm
can't have
saying
a-
is you're not a puppet. You're not a puppet. You are a mini. You are a part of the mini. You're
Well, even being a
you're
part of the
something-
many would still make you a puppet.
Well, no. When you're a part of the one, you're just a mask. God is wearing a mask,
You
right?
could be a part of a group and then still be subject to the group pulling strings on you, unbeknownst
That's
to
where
you.
obedience comes into play.
Wait, but
That's
let
what
me
I'm
just
saying.
understand though, hostile. Who's saying in general that we are a puppet though? Could you clarify what you mean by that term?
Yeah,
And who would you
anyone
say
who believes-
who's
Yeah.
making us think that way?
Yeah,
Exactly.
anyone who believes that there is a one God, that he is the one, that the universe and creation actually emanates from him, that means that you're just an extension or a part of it. It's like saying your finger has individuality over you, right? It doesn't. It's just a part of you. Your foot is an individual? No, it's not. It's your foot.
That's a bad explanation. It's a bad explanation because one, that makes us. You're trying to add in that part.
You just said that you're a vessel.
Yeah, a vessel
Yeah.
would be the shoe, and you're trying to make that shoe uncreated. That shoe isn't uncreated. That's the distinction.
No, the
You're
shoe is
crossing that
not.
line.
The thing filling the shoe is uncreated. And I would say that that's an individual.
If it fills the shoe at all,
Yeah,
as
yep.
you said earlier, again, that's the whole catch. And just
That's
because
the
it fills, and then again, just because you're filled with the shoe doesn't mean you're obedient to that shoe. Like the foot doesn't fit.
No,
the shoe gets,
I'm
you
not
get what I'm saying?
saying. I'm not saying just feeling it makes you obedient. It's accepting that it's the one that makes you ultimately obedient.
But
You
what I'm
fall
saying
into
is
the-
how can there be a one when there's obviously a two and there's a you and then there's a it?
we agree. That's what I'm saying. I agree with that statement. There
That
isn't
it
a
would
one.
be God though, but then we're talking about the internal us, and then there can be a multitude of internal us and still only one God, and that is a problem.
That's my point, right? It's a fork in the road. Either you are God, you're a part of God, right? Like, I'm not saying that you are God and everyone is
100%, yeah.
God, right? In that paradigm would say that everyone is actually just God expressing itself in bodies.
Yeah, that's a weird take. I get it. That's the hard determinant. Like it gets hard because it makes no
I
sense.
don't agree with that. I'm saying it's
Right.
not true. All the spirits that fill the spiritual hierarchy, cherubim, seraphim, ophanim, thrones, kings, powers, dominions, virtues, dominies, all those things. angels, archangeloi, all those things have spirit. And those are individuals. And they inhabit sheaths or bodies, whether they're corporeal or incorporeal. What you would call Satan earlier, what you were trying to say is fleshly. Well, in the Bible, they don't. They say it's incorporeal. But
Right,
he's
it's
still a
the-
being. He's still an
yeah,
individual.
that's what I was trying to, because even the term nefesh has a triple entendre. Like
Yeah.
some words are triple entendre, and it talks about those things. That's what I meant by it.
Yeah.
It goes in that old Platonist thing about I forget how it goes. The man, beast, and the other thing, spirit or something like that. I forget. Platonism. It's been a while. Like there's always a triad or something like that. In the thing of man, like the id, ego, and superego.
All mystery traditions agree with the one too, like Masonry, Rosicrucianism, Theosophy, Anthroposophy. All religions agree with it. There are a few that still exist that don't, but most in the past that didn't agree with the one were exterminated or genocided.
Well, what would you say is like so wrong with them saying that there's like one God that exists? Like what would you point to as like one error with that
Yeah.
from your view?
You lose individuality.
But how, like say for instance, like from a Christian perspective or a Hebrew Israelite perspective of the Bible, while we teach that there is one God, we as humans, right? Well, free will is a whole nother discussion, but to one degree or another, God gives us the will to choose certain things in life. Now we can choose to keep His commandments, keep His guidelines, or we can choose to live an unrighteous lifestyle. And either of those paths will lead you either to a righteous judgment at the end, a reward, or you'll get rewarded with a punishment at the end if you decide to live ungodly.
The irony in that is that you will still know God one way or another, right? There's no escape. There's no escape from life, apparently.
But with all the perspective, right? God created us, but we're still individual, even if we hold the view that some parts of our life are predetermined. But again, I guess that'd be a discussion for another time with free will. But I don't get what you'd say. Your perspective just seems a little confusing to me, because when you look at Christianity or most Bible perspectives, they're not saying that we're just like robots that are being controlled by God.
No,
Most of
no,
them
they're
teach
not
that we're-
explicitly saying that. I'm saying that's the deception. You ultimately are absorbed into the one while thinking you have free agency.
No, look, where you need to go here is Romans 1. Paul is pointing out the creator-creature distinction. That's the difference in Christianity from other religions. There is a distinction there.
Now,
Yeah,
if
read
you
it
could expound, I heard Hostile, before I was able to hop on here, you were going back and forth with Noel on the topic of God and Satan. What was the whole conclusion from that?
No, we
discussion.
weren't. That just kind of got brought up shortly from the Epicurean paradox, right? So that actually is a good thing to bring up at the moment, because you were just talking about free will and him giving us the choice to participate in righteousness or following the law, right? Obedience. That goes back to the Epicurean paradox. If he's omniscient, none of that is necessary, right? If he's all knowing and he knows exactly your decisions that you're going to make, then yes, it is a predetermined reality. Either way you
Well, just
go,
to
it's hard
understand
to
my
escape.
perspective, I do believe we're already predetermined. Like if you read Ecclesiastes
there's a
1:4,
book
it
with
talks
names in it.
about us but let me finish real quick. It speaks about us being predestinated and preordained from the beginning of the world for salvation. So I believe God will give you certain aspects of a free will. Like say for instance, God will let me choose what color shirt I want to wear, what I listen to on the radio, what streets I want to walk down when I take a walk. But at the end of the day, my salvation is already predetermined before I was even born. God already knows that. As it says, He knows the end from the beginning. Well, the
Yeah,
only way He would know that is because he knows all things, right?
That's
It's all
a problem,
predetermined.
right?
We're playing it out in real time. No, what would you say the problem is with that? I don't see a problem.
You're not an individual.
What
You're a
do you
robot.
mean?
You were made to follow what he already knows. You're a robot. If he's
Well,
omniscient, he knows
Well, no,
exactly every
like
move you're
say
gonna
for
make.
instance, Hostile. Do you know that in the Bible there's such a thing as prophecies? Do you know what that means? Do you
Yeah.
know what? Okay, so
Yeah.
say for instance, like when you read the Bible, God gives down to His men prophecies about things that would happen in the future. So it's written as a warning for us that come after, who would read these things to know what's going to happen, like in the end times, right? So
Yeah.
God already knows what's going to happen, and He warned us beforehand about what's going to happen. Now God could have changed what was going to happen, but He decided to let it play out how it played out. So He's just given us the warning about these things by these prophecies. But I don't see how you could say that means we're all like a robot, and all that. I just
That
don't see the
proves my point,
distinction.
though, right? So what you're talking about is eschatology. If his eschatology is already figured, what does your life mean? That removes all meaning from your life.
No, it doesn't, because like say for instance, I'm not sure how your knowledge of the Bible goes, but when you read the Bible at the end, for the righteous, they get a reward at the end. They get eternal
Yeah,
life.
that's the
at
dupe.
the
That's
end.
what I'm saying. That's the bait and switch, right? You're told that there's this heaven, right, that awaits you, this mansion set aside for you. Why are you not there right now? Why do you have to go through the problem of evil if he's omniscient and omnipotent and omnibenevolent?
Well, I'd say the Bible gives us the answer for these things. Like say for instance, you read Second Ezra, which I don't believe you accept the Apocrypha, but Second Ezra, the 7th chapter, speaks about.
You see, that's why I was saying earlier. It's you're already there. Like this is the new heaven. It's just not there yet. It's in the now. It's in the works of being that. But by all right, you are experiencing it. And the decision of whether you stay or go is entirely up to your own mind. And you know, the evil people who kill you and things like that, whether they do so or not, and then that's on them. But just because you're a victim doesn't mean you're safe either. By any warrant, I guess. Self-speaking, I guess. I'm too harsh. I wonder. No wonder why people don't flock this way. I don't know. I won't blame 'em.
narrow path for the kingdom that only a few can find, right? And it says, if you didn't go for the narrow, didn't go for this life, how shall he receive this great
Everything you're
inheritance?
saying though
So everything is
is
it's a
negated
test.
though.
Wait, but let me finish though. So it's a test, right? Where we're gonna how we're gonna spend our eternity. It's determined right now.
Why
Right?
is he testing
We're
you
living
if
it
he
out in
knows
real
it all?
time as a test. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Everything you're saying though is negated by the fact that God is omniscient. This is the problem.
How does
This
that?
is-
But wait,
this is-
but let me understand. How does that negate what's being
because why
said?
is
I'm
he
not sure
putting
what
you?
you're
Why
saying.
is he putting you through it if he knows the answer? He
Well,
knows
because
if you're a
we're
piece
the
of
ones
shit, you're
living
going
it
to
out in real
hell.
time.
He knows if you're a good
Well,
guy.
I don't believe that there is a hell. So that's another discussion for
Okay, he
another time.
knows that you are going to partake in righteousness or heaven, or not. He knows that.
Right,
So
but we
what's the
don't
point?
wait. But hold on a second. But we don't know that. Like I don't know that. Noel doesn't know that. Right, the church down the street, the people going
Yeah,
there,
so
they
why would
don't
he
know
do
that.
that to you?
So that because we as humans, we as created beings, we need to experience these things for ourselves. So our Creator, He already knows. But
So
we as a created being,
there's a problem
we
there.
have to
How
figure
are
these
you a
things out.
self? How are you a self if everything that you were experiencing is already played out and predetermined?
Okay, well, what I'm going to answer, if you listen to what I said earlier, as far as salvation goes, I believe it's already predetermined. But that's what God knows. But we, as the created beings, we don't know that. So this
So
is an experience that bro. Can I just finish? I'll give you a chance to speak.
yeah.
So we, as the created beings, we're living this out in real time, right? So we're the ones having this experience. The one who created us, He already knows, but He's giving us the chance to experience these things for ourselves in real time.
Why not just
I don't
experience
see what's so
heaven?
wrong with that.
Like he knows the good guys, right? He knows the guys who get that reward. Why not just
Right.
start there? Why not just have the party and chill and hang out at the good place, right?
Well, what I would tell you is that, this is supposed to be a challenge, right? Receiving eternal life and receiving all these great things, it makes sense to have to experience both the good and the bad. In life, a lot of times you have to experience both good things and the bad. So God's the same way. He wants people to experience good things, but also negative things. Why?
Yeah, that really goes back into the whole hierarchy of things, like the least to the greatest. So wherever you have the least in the kingdom, then it shall be like the greatest. And there's that spectrum. So I guess that's kind of like, where do you place yourself? It's kind of like the idea of someone who's always gone through trauma in their life versus someone who's never gone through trauma in their life. These are two different set of people, and both of them can know God, and both know God uniquely, but in the same way. And in that spectrum between, I say close to relative no trauma to having some trauma or lifelong trauma, whatever you want to call it, right? Then there's a spectrum, and that's probably the least and the greatest. But I imagine that I can't necessarily say that that's the case, but it seems to line up pretty well.
Because that builds up your character. It gives you experience,
But
right? Like
there
many
is no
men in the
character to
Bible.
build up. I don't think you see the circularity here. That there is no
Okay.
character to build. He knows your character because either
Yeah,
you get in or
but
not.
I'm saying that we ourselves, we don't know the character
So
because we're
you're a
living it
blank
out in
slate.
real time. We're living
You're-
it out in real time, having these experiences.
So he made you as a blank slate, and he
What do
knows
you- what do
what
you
you'll
mean?
do. But you got to figure out like whether you like Nikes or rock music or pizza or just swimming or skydiving or like
Yeah,
the
I'm
world. The
not
world
sure.
doesn't matter, right? Because in the end of the Christian eschatology, the world is done away with. The New
Well,
Jerusalem.
again, I disagree with you on that too. That's a misunderstanding.
It
But we'll
explicitly
leave
says
that.
that.
Oh, he's
No, you have a
HTT's,
misunderstanding about what the text says.
he's not.
I've read the Bible.
You're
I know that.
you're not a Christian, correct? You're like you're a Hebrew Israelite, right?
Yeah, I consider myself a Hebrew Israelite. Just so you understand, hostile.
If you're
From our
Catholic,
perspective, when the Bible
anyway.
says that the earth, like say for instance, that the earth will be burned in the end times, I agree with the text, but it's talking about like certain parts of the world. So we would just agree to disagree. I'll give you a bonus point. And the book in the Apocrypha, 2 Ezra chapter 6, verse 9, it says, "For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows." That doesn't mean literally the world's going to like blow up and explode because Esau is the end of the world. It just means a transfer of power from one people to another. So clearly there's context when it uses terms like end of an age or end of the world. Clearly
Okay,
there's
so
context to these
but
things.
you're supporting the Epicurean paradox. Okay, so listen, you're saying that the matter is purifiable, it's perfectible. You're saying that the world will change, and then this heaven, this New Jerusalem, will be the world. It's a material place, but it's all perfect. It's
Well,
good.
once
It lacks
again,
all
you have a misunderstanding because my perspective, I believe the kingdom will be on earth, but you're going to have other nations who are underneath that Jerusalem who have to serve them.
Will there be
So
evil?
will there be evil?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we should first of all start at the beginning, because from our understanding of the text, right, from our Israelite perspective, we believe that God created both the good and the evil.
Yeah,
And
but we're
Satan is
talking about
a servant
eschatology.
under
No,
God. So,
we're not.
it would be a
Forgive me.
point
I'm
of
not trying to
contention.
interrupt you. I'm just trying to save us time, right? So we're not
Okay.
talking about the beginning. We're talking about the end of the eschatology. When
Right,
the
I
prophecies are
understand that, but
fulfilled.
what I'm saying, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, if we don't agree at the very start of the conversation, how are we going to
No,
agree
I'm
on the
saying he is
conclusion?
evil. He creates evil. I know that, right?
Okay.
But I'm saying the eschatology. The whole point of this conversation is that he knows the end, right? But you're saying that the end is actually a world, a heavenly place, right? But on the world, right? So I read that wrong, right? Ezra, the way you interpret it is that the world is actually going to still be material, and there's going to be people.
Hey,
that have the
hostile, is it
world
true?
that are
Is it
gonna
true
live-
or false? Is it true or false? When you read Revelation, it described New Jerusalem coming down to earth out of heaven. True or false?
Yes, that is what it says. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But it spiritualizes the world. It makes a spiritual world, not a material one. No more time, no temporality. That's why you have eternity, or what they call immortality. What the Jews and Christians call immortality. I would disagree with that, but they call it that. Masons,
You said
Rosicrucians,
it's a
secret
spiritual
society,
world, not like a physical world. Like, say, for instance, the
yeah, no more
experience we're
physical.
living now, it's not like this, it's different.
That's explicitly what it says. You will become incorruptible. You will take on, you will let off corruptibility and take on incorruptibility. That's not the physical world. The physical world decays. It's entropic. That's not New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem doesn't decay, and it's no evil. There's no evil there. That's another problem. That's what I was trying to get to,
Okay,
because of all the
but real quick,
eschatology.
hostile, I'm going to test you on your understanding. When you read Revelation, did it say that none of these evildoers shall enter in through the gates into the city? So is it possible that outside the gates there could be some unrighteousness going on? They're just not permitted to enter within the gates to the kingdom. Have you read that in the text, right?
Yeah, no, they it does allude to that, right? But ultimately, they
Right.
are done away with. They perish. The only ones that become incorruptible are the ones that partake in New Jerusalem.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that the other nations are going to become incorruptible. The other nations that are not saved, they're still going to be able to be punished. They're still going to have to. They're not going to have eternal life. That's only
They
a
will not be
reward
able to
for
enter New
God's
Jerusalem.
chosen.
No,
Yeah, they're not going to be able to
it'll be
enter
an
in through the city.
impenetrable citadel where it's all good forever for eternity. That's the end of the eschatology.
Yes, but do you agree that outside of that, there are other kingdoms that exist on earth that are underneath
I do,
Christ's
yeah.
dominion?
Oh, I do,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. Christians don't. No, Jews
Wait,
don't.
but just so I understand, though, you're saying you agree that these things will exist under Christ. So doesn't that mean you do agree
No,
with
I'm
the
not
Bible
saying
that
that.
Christ
I'm
was
not saying
true?
that. I'm not agreeing with the Bible. I'm telling you what the Bible says that would be contrary to your beliefs.
But
It's
what about it is contrary to what I'm saying, though? Could you clarify?
Yeah, so back to the idea that that you somehow have free agency while God has predetermined everything. And I asked you the point, and that's when I brought up eschatology, right? If he knows about this end, if he knows about the heaven that he could set up, or that he does set up, and that everyone is going to be inhabiting, why not just start there? And you said it's a challenge or a test, and I'm saying that's a problem because that would defy his omniscience, right? If he's
Well, like
testing
say
you
for
because he
instance,
doesn't
like the
know.
Bible says that my faults are not your faults, my ways are not your ways. So perhaps I can't give you an exact answer from the mind of God, inside joke, but I can't give you an exact answer from God's mind. Why? Because I'm not God. So as to why God decided to choose to do this
Yeah,
thing that
that's an
way,
answer.
let me finish real quick. Why, as to why he decided to let his people suffer terribly in this siege over here or that one over there, I can't give you an answer for that because
Yeah.
I'm not God. I don't know God's mind.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you it's because it's evil. The thing that's creating the world and the forms is evil, right? That's the easiest answer. The
Well,
other one,
I'd say that
is
that's
having
what your
faith.
corrupt mind came to the conclusion of.
I wouldn't say it's corrupt, though, right? I wouldn't make the leap and say that claim leads to the idea that I'm corrupt, or that's
Well, let me ask you this:
corruption.
this evil thing, this thing that's like all evil or whatever that made the world. You agree that this evil thing
It's good
did
and
good
evil.
things as well, right? Like,
Yeah,
like say
I'm
for
not saying
instance,
it's all evil. I never
okay,
said that. No, he creates
okay,
the
but
illusion that contraries are a necessity. That
okay,
polarity is
so
a
you just
necessity.
so I understand from your perspective, you believe that whatever made the world, right? It did create the evil, but it also did create the
Yes.
good as well,
Yep.
correct?
He wants you to worship it. Yeah. He thinks that he wants you to think that it's the thing to chase, that it is the good, what Plato would call the one, the most simple thing, which is reducible to a trinity. Plato had to give up at 3, and that's where we get the Trinity from. It's a little different, but
Who is
beauty, justice, and goodness.
who is he? Who is he that you're referencing?
When I'm describing the demiurge or the creator, the one, I don't know if it's a he. The only reason I say that is because of its activity, right? Like, this comes from occult teachings, Hermeticism. They would say that things are engendered. Well, the pinnacle of the material cosmos, what we would call the creator of the material cosmos, is an active agency. Therefore, male, he. I don't know. It might be better to call it it. It is acceptable to me. It's a being. It's an entity.
Okay. Is it a personal being?
It can be, yeah.
In what
Can
way?
For people who worship it.
And what does that mean? How does that
Yeah,
make
they
it-
have. You have to do certain rites, and there's devotionals and having faith to a certain degree.
Okay. And how did you learn about this entity?
Ontology. There has to be a creator of the material cosmos. Now, he's not. That's separate from the idea that it's the only thing. It's the thing that all things stem from. That Plato would call the one. That it's like an emanationist view of the cosmos. That everything emanates from the one and is a part of it. It's like our progenitor. That's
Well,
not.
hostile. Just a point on that. If you like, say for instance, right, if this one created the cosmos, would you agree that that means that everything within those cosmos was created by that one?
No,
At
the
least
spirit
within the
isn't.
cosmos.
The spirit isn't. That's where the fork in the road it presents itself. You can either buy that your spirit is created, which then it's game over. You're just an emanation from the one. Or you can take the other route and say, no, I'm actually uncreated. I'm eternal. Nothing created me. I'm a spirit. I have individual, absolute, individual free will potential that I have to unlock or gain. And there's
Well,
methods for that.
let's take that notion though, right? Like, let's go back in time. Depending on your view, some believe that humans existed for 200,000, 300,000, or
Yeah.
6,000 years or whatever. But putting that to the side, let's go back to the beginning with the first few people. So, like, what if they told themselves that they just, they are who they are, right? They didn't have they're not part of any one thing greater. They're just there. Like, how would you view that? Like, I understand what you're saying here in
No, it is greater.
2025,
They
but
are
if we go
told
back
that.
in time,
They
what-
were
how-
told that. And that's what I'm saying. They are a part of something greater, and it's outside of the material cosmos. It's outside of the world.
okay, and who would you say is telling them that lie?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a lie. I would make the epistemological claim that it's objective, that it's a thing that you can prove ontologically. But that's something that somebody has to hash out themselves and go down that road.
How do you make the claim that it is the case, that it exists, and you do have knowledge of it, but you have to figure that out on your own?
Yeah, that's how. That's the claim. Right? That's
Wait,
that's
what?
the problem. Well, no, that's the problem. It's not something that I can transmit to you. It's incognizable. It's something that I can't tell you in words. I can't write a
Really?
song. I can't write a mathematical equation to tell
So
you.
you get specialized knowledge that you can't transmit.
Yes,
to
it
typical
is
human.
absolutely specialized knowledge. You got it. Bingo. Gnosis. Yeah.
Gnosis. So there's no kind of
See, that doesn't even make sense because how was I supposed to discover it if he hadn't told me? So that's already like a bastardly sneaking in. Like that's the brainwash right there without people realizing it. People who don't catch that are just probably doomed to be like, yeah, I do have to think about this deeply because I'm already thinking about the subject matter already. So the more I intuitualize, the more or I said that I effed that up. Anyway, the more I look into it internally, and it is all for me. And then that's how like atheists become atheists because like, oh, it's all for me. It's not even God. It's me. And then they become atheists. And then then they just somehow switch that to like this idea. Oh, well, that makes sense because there's many. We're all here. Yes, seems functional. But yeah.
ability behind this knowledge.
Yeah, I am. Right. And then the other people who would agree with it.
So
They create
agreement makes it relevant and valid.
No, because
No.
I'm not getting it from somebody else. I'm not. It's
Yeah, we're
not
trying to figure out who we're
agreeable
getting.
that makes it valid.
Trying to figure out where you're getting it from.
Right? It wouldn't make sense. Who was the first person to tell you? And if you told yourself that you were internal, then you're just talking about a group of people that have the same internal feeling that they're eternal and from a group, right? That's a little bit weird. Just saying. Seems like and you all have to find out and then find each other. And then you know who that's weird. But then you have to converse. How's that internal when you have to group and verify that it's with other people, right? If there's some type of verification that is required on the outside, then it's not internal. Then that's also defeats the argument because this is also if it's internal, there's no need to share it. You cannot share this thing, and yet he's trying to share it with other people. So it's either a delusion or that's all it could ever be. It's not truth. Because again, we would never need him to come tell us about this thing that's already internal and into ourselves to know about ourselves. Does not make sense.
From me, from inside.
You
It's
said you weren't
animalistic.
getting it from yourself, dude.
I did just say I'm getting it from myself.
You
I
just said
didn't
you
say
weren't
that.
getting it from yourself.
When did I say that?
Okay, let me see if I can clarify this then. If you're getting it from yourself,
Mhm.
why are you talking about things outside of yourself that
It's internalized. You use
Yeah.
ontology, you use epistemology, you use metaphysics, you use theology, philosophy in general, and you figure this out internally. That's what gnosis is. It's anamnesis. It's something that you're remembering through the study of these subjects. It's not. There's no progress. That's fake. That's an illusion. Evolution is an illusion. It's not real. It's a deception. It's a dupe.
faith is an illusion?
No, I didn't say that.
What did you say is an
Evolution, progress.
progress is an illusion?
That's an
So
illusion.
this conversation elevating to any certainty of knowledge isn't possible?
That's not progress. We would say that that's an involutive process. It's remembering. You're not going forward anywhere. You've forgot it. You already know it. It's in you, but you've forgotten.
What is up with this idea of it's not this, it's a this, it's a not a that, it's a those. There's always some bait and switch with these fantastic wordplay, and it always catches people. And it's sad how people get caught on these wordplays, man. Come on now. This is like it's like talking to the AIs or whatever, and they'd say, you're not this, you're that. It's the same principle. It really is. It's sad. It's the old talk about a bait and switch. That's it right there.
reclaim it.
How do you know what is in me or other people?
Well, I would say that most people have spirit in them.
No, but I'm
They're
asking you
very-
specifically how you know what's in me or other people.
Well, I don't.
You're saying, well,
know that.
I
I
kind
agree
of have
with
this idea that there's spirit in other people. I mean,
Well, no, I agree with Kant, right? I can never know.
how did Kant know?
He didn't. He made the claim that
Because you agree
cannot-
with somebody who doesn't know.
you're not listening, right? So
Go ahead.
he said that you cannot know the thing in itself, the thing that you're observing. I don't know your essence. I know mine,
Right.
and I can use that as a starting point,
How
and I
did-
can make
how
these claims for myself.
How did Emmanuel know that though?
That you can't know the thing in itself.
Yeah.
Because nobody's ever done it. Nobody can do it. You can't do it.
Yeah,
You're
he
making
has
the claim that I can't. right
Emmanuel-
now, you're
Emmanuel-
proving
hold
that
on.
I can't.
Hold on, Emmanuel Kant had knowledge of what all people can do and have ever done.
Well,
He
no,
had
it's very
absolute knowledge?
rudimentary. It's very rudimentary. It's a fundamental thing. It's like saying, it's kind of like it's like Parmenides, right? Where he says, nothing begets nothing. Are you going to argue with that? Do you really need empirical evidence or epistemological steps and logic for me to prove to you that nothing begets nothing?
I can
It's
ask what you think nothing is.
absolutely what that is. Nothing. No thing.
It's a circular answer, dude.
So, okay. So are you like a absurdist?
No, but I did want you to explain about
Are you
Kant.
saying that nothing is
Let
not?
me
Are
finish.
you saying that you can't define nothing? Just real
No.
quick before we move forward.
I was pointing out that I could move the line of questioning over to the idea of nothing.
So you
That's
know
all.
what I mean by
That's
saying nothing, right?
not necessarily. I don't know a lot of things that you're saying today, so I'm trying to figure out how you know these things. And you're
Well,
saying,
how do you know about the nothing not being nothing?
dude,
right?
I'm not really wanting to get into the nothing thing. I was just making a
Well,
a
I'm just
little
using an
bit-
example, playing on how you want to prove, right? Your methodology for making epistemological claims, that itself is circular. Everything is that way. Like earlier when I was talking about precepts, you cannot move forward in philosophy without precepts, or else you'll reduce yourself into nihilism or empiricism.
Yeah, I know, but precepts can be challenged.
Of course, and that's why I said I'm not here to proselytize. I can't give you these things as objectively true. I will claim
Yeah,
they are because I
that's-
claim to know them.
Well, that's kind of a problem. You can't express what you need to.
It's not a
especially-
problem.
Okay, let me talk for a second. Okay.
This guy really does sound a lot like me, especially in that last little bit there. I heard a little bit of myself come out. That was nice. I'm coming out. I'm in this guy's asshole. Oh God. Oh God, I should have said I don't even know him. That's terrible. I just came to my mind. I'm sorry. Forgive me for that. It's a late night. I had to. Oh God. That's terrible. And I'm eating a grilled cheese sandwich. Oh, awesome.
You can't express some of the inner esoteric knowledge you have in words, you said, and then you're trying to say that we all have something within us. I'm trying to figure out how you have knowledge of what other people have, or even universal knowledge of all people having this within them.
I'm
It's
able to
just-
do it, and there's other people who
That's
are able to do it.
anecdotal, okay? You know, and that's
It is
association with
anecdotal. That's what I'm saying. It is something
Yeah.
that's hard to
Okay. So
grasp.
anyway, I'm trying to figure out how you come to this knowledge, and I'm just not getting anywhere. But
So
welcome
I
to it.
gave you an example of one. You start off with fundamentals, right? So like the ontological claim that Parmenides made. Most philosophers do not argue with this. Only theologians way further down the road argue with it, and they claim
Does that give it some sort of authority, or does that make it true or false?
No, it doesn't. It actually makes it less true, right? The creatio ex nihilo is even more absurd because it's so far down.
And what do you think? What do you think truth is?
I do believe truth is objective, but I think truth is transcendent. It's not something that I can lay out physically. Or
I'm not asking you about the categories it's in. I'm asking you what.
Yeah,
you
you
think
can't
it is.
you can't make an epistemological, like I can't make an objective epistemological claim and prove
Okay,
it. to you.
good. So you can't make a truth claim. It's good to know.
No, not for you. Only for myself I can do that. That's where you're having a problem. It's that you need me to prove it to you.
Okay, so I'm supposed to take that as true from you.
No, you're not supposed to take it as true. You're supposed
okay,
to do
so I'm
it.
supposed to
You're
take it as
supposed
what?
to do it.
False?
I've been saying that like over and over.
So I'm supposed to take that as false from you.
You can. You very well can. Yeah.
I know
It's
what
up
I
to you.
can do, but I'm trying to ask about the methodology that you're trying to employ here.
There is no
You're giving me-
epistemological
you're giving me a
methodology for gnosis. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It-
You're going to skip over epistemic justification ultimately.
Yes. No, I mean that's how it works though, because this isn't a material thing. I can't do it. I will never be able to do it. It's something that you either you get or you don't, and it doesn't.
You see that, and if he's saying you can jump over it because it's supernatural, it doesn't involve the natural stuff, then it's playing at those games that kind of atheists like to say that you just God explain it away. It's basically the same thing. My internal God is always correct because it's beyond this material world, and I can't demonstrate that to you. I can only speak of it as a truth for myself, and those who find the truth within it when they find it internally themselves, you see. And again, that's fine and dandy, but that still doesn't take away from God. Dang, my little talk whistle. I'm gonna always whistle for the rest of my life. It's weird. It started up like 3 years ago or something like that, I swear. Maybe not.
Make me lose sleep, and I'm not saying that you need to either. You know, these are things that you hear, right? And you can ask more about what it is, right, rather than how true it is, to try to intuit it yourself and reclaim it and remember it. It's very transcendent. It's
Just don't ask you if the things you're saying are objectively true.
I'm saying they are, but I can't tell you.
But you're claiming they are, but you can't tell me that. Yeah.
Yeah. How can I grab the spirit and bring it into matter and show it to you?
Gee, I don't know. How can you tell me something without telling me, or not tell me by telling me?
That's the trick here. Yeah, it's apophatic.
Yes.
It's absolutely apophatic. It is the most transcendent knowledge.
Hey man,
possible.
knowledge is what you feel, bro. Knowledge is what you feel. No questions asked.
I mean, no. I mean, I get what you're saying, but yeah, no, it's not. It has nothing to do with emotions or the affective.
Oh, it has nothing to do with emotions, huh? So
It
you're
doesn't,
going to
no.
make this delineation somehow?
It's very cold. Yeah, it's very far removed from emotions.
And basically it comes down to whatever you're telling me, I have to accept because it's esoteric.
No.
Individual.
Why do you keep saying that you have to accept it?
It's implied within the conversation. You're trying to convey knowledge to me and influence me. It's obvious.
It's not though. I'm
I'm not saying I
emphatically
have to
telling you
accept
I'm
it. I'm
not.
saying you're trying to. Okay, so you're not trying to tell me things in order to give me knowledge. You're just trying to make noise.
So if I'm like, chocolate ice cream is brown, right?
Mhm.
Chocolate ice cream is brown and it's inside of a waffle cone. Are you going to tell me, hey man, look man, are you telling me I have to eat that ice cream cone and that chocolate ice cream? It sounds like you are by virtue of the conversation.
Right, you're trying to pitch out information without accountability. Like, well, no, I'm just throwing out ideas, dude.
No,
I'm not
there-
saying. Let me
I am
finish.
accounting for it,
Here's
though.
what I think
I
you're
am.
doing. You're like, I'm throwing out ideas. I can't epistemically justify them or account for them. But look, I'm not telling you one way or the other ethically what you should or shouldn't do, because also I hold a subjective ethic on the matter.
So you're a
I'm just,
nihilist.
because I'm trying to explain what I think your position is. Like I'm trying to steel man it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm saying no position ever can do this. You can't unless it's empirical science or materialism or nihilism. You
How
can't.
do you have universal knowledge of no position ever, and universal negative?
Say that one more time.
How do you have knowledge of the universal negative like no position ever? Are you going to just tell me because you just know inside?
I thought it was seemed a little bit too fast, but god dang, JG's like really fucking leaning into him. Like, god damn, like hold up, I have this sped up. I'm like, JG's usually not this aggressive. It's the undertones, I tell you, I love them. I love listening to the undertones when people speak. You speak it up, you speed it up, and you get the emotion behind the cold cadence. If they're not being whatever, it helps draw it out. Shut the fuck up. I'm a weirdo. How dare you?
Oh well, no. I'm saying
You know, unsub right now. If you ever hear this, unsub right now. Just do it. Piss me off.
maybe
If you're
more in
even
the
sub,
future, but they would
oh shit. Don't look at my feed. My food
have
stuff.
to be reduced to materialism, some sort
do
of
you know-
materialism.
So
Well, because you want proof of it. You want the. I've already told you one fundamental epistemological claim that's ontological that you can prove, but you still argued it, right? Because you said, well, what's the definition of
your
nothing?
existence.
No, well, yeah, Parmenides is almost inarguable. No, there was very few people who argued with that. Nothing begets nothing. How do you
Parmenides thought
present
that,
your argument?
But he thought that everything was static.
No, not necessarily. No,
Oh, he did.
no, it was more nuanced than that. If you read the fragments,
Well,
it's
it is. I mean, but I'm just saying in terms of like him versus Heraclitus.
yeah,
what-
it was
not
not
everything was
flux.
in flux.
It's not
but
becoming, right? It's being. Yeah.
if
he
everything
didn't
is
necessarily
static, well,
say being
that
was
is kind of
static.
what you're saying, though. Nothing is static. There's no progress. So you're on that.
No,
is
he's beyond the dichotomy. It's outside of dichotomies. It's not movement. It's not fixed. It's neither. It's being. It's eternity, which implies some sort of movement, but it's not becoming movement. So it's something that's
right.
transcendent. It's apophatic, right? Nothing begets nothing. How do you argue that? Present a good argument.
Yeah,
without
I
proving it.
wouldn't want to argue that, but in my most creative days, I would, I could find something. to
So
do with
would
it.
you agree that it's objective, or are you still going to leave it out there and say, well, no, maybe one day something can come from nothing?
No, I didn't disagree with it. I'm
Is it
just saying,
objective is what I'm asking you.
in my understanding from my purview, there has to be a creator behind any.
Okay,
anything we see.
give me your epistemological methodology for that right now.
My epistemology is I presuppose the scriptures.
There we go. So we're in the same boat. We're in the same boat.
Wait, you presuppose the scriptures?
No, I'm saying my presuppositions that you're challenging, that I'm telling you I can't give it to you. You are in the same boat.
No,
You
I'm
have to
not.
presuppose. I'm presupposing this. There's a presupposition that there's this anamnesis, this thing that you have a.
Different forms of evidence. See, JG's relying on the same evidence, except it's one less for him. If you want to say it is, it's just that the history of our world and all that. If JG wants to go that or recorded whatever record, history record, record's probably better than history because history can be altered, but records are records, right? Records are records. No, they can be altered too. Shut up! Shut up! Everything's altered. Everything's now backwards or something. Anyway, but yeah, It's the same evidence path is all I was trying to say without saying too much.
Method for, there are ritualistic techniques like apophatic meditation and stuff like that, archimonic meditation. There are things like that, but you have not done them and you have not went through the process and have experienced those things. So it is absolutely special knowledge, just like somebody who says they have revelation from the scripture. It's absolutely specialized knowledge that people have to have faith in God and
No,
go chase and get rewarded
my
with.
position isn't arguing specialized knowledge.
Good. Then we're in the same boat. Yeah.
Your boat is specialized knowledge, so we're not in the same boat.
No, you are. Okay. Keep explaining how you have presuppositions, right? How you need presuppositions to support most biblical. Are you religious? Are you a Christian?
I'm presupposing the scriptures as truth.
Are you a Christian?
Well, what do you think from what I just said?
Maybe. Are you not? Are you Jew?
Maybe.
I'm a Christian.
Okay, you're a Christian. Okay. Can you give me the denomination? I'm not trying to dox you or anything. I just want to see where you're coming from because it has a doctrine, right? Whatever you believe in. Are you a
No
Christian?
denomination. I'm just coming from. I would just argue transcendental categories. I would argue a paradigm level argument.
Oh, that's so pretty.
If that's what you want.
Maybe that's enough. Elaborate more.
I would just argue that God is the necessary precondition for all reality, including universals like logic and morals that we rely on. Therefore, God exists.
Okay, so how do you know that?
Revelation.
Special
The
knowledge.
scriptures.
That's special knowledge.
No, it's. I mean, it's actually. Well, yeah, you actually.
I literally brought up revelation as a synonymous concept for
revelation,
special
special and general revelation. Yes.
Yeah, it's special knowledge to the individual who studies scripture.
Well, in my worldview, it's knowledge that applies to all people. It's
They just got to read the scripture.
it's exclusive.
Yeah, it is exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
That's special knowledge. Yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying that your idea is wrong because of that, though.
No,
I'm
no,
not saying
how would you? How would you? Right? How would you be able to make that?
Exactly. So we have to go on these precepts, and we have to try to use supporting arguments from metaphysical categories like ontology.
What makes you say we have to do that?
Well, you don't. You could just not.
Well, then
talk about
stop
it.
saying it in such a way. That's the thing. You seem to be like leading and influencing.
Well, no, to communicate.
Let me
right?
finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. You seem to be leading and influencing, and I'm just throwing it out there, dude. I'm not saying it's right and not saying it's wrong. When you get challenged, you start to go to a different place. I mean, what is it that you think you're doing?
Speaking
Here.
with other people about philosophy,
In a
grinding the
general sense,
millstone.
Sure. But when it comes down to it, if you have a position,
I'm actually trying to learn from people.
right on. What is
That's another hard one. What's there to learn if it's all intrinsic to yourself? What more can you learn from somebody else if you're going to have to learn it yourself? You cannot learn it from anybody else. And he just said that. What else is there to learn? That's a weird one.
going to come down to, at least for me, is that metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, basic philosophy, that we both have a position. Ultimately, we both have presuppositions, as we agree on, but those are not necessarily equal, and they are challengeable. And part of the challenge, you just got to go.
Epistemologically prove revelation. How does that work? Oh, you said ethics. Is your epistemology exclusive to ethics?
No. Why would it be exclusive? It's entangled with ethics.
Well, no, I'm saying because you can't prove your ontology. You can't prove. We've already discussed that. You plead
Using a logical proof.
Well, no, you pleaded to special knowledge called revelation.
There is special revelation. Why do you think that it can't be asserted?
I'm trying to do what you're doing to me. You are asking me to prove my ontology epistemologically, and I'm saying you can't, and you're doing the same thing.
No, I'm not asking you to do that. I think those things are interconnected. connected, as I said when you first came in.
But they're not, because you cannot prove your
You
ontology.
already said that. You already agreed they were, because when
I
you said
didn't.
you said when you speak or make a claim, then they become connected.
If I make a claim,
So
yes.
what are you in a vacuum? You're having a discussion.
Yes, we are all in vacuums. We're all absolutely.
We're all in a
individuals.
vacuum.
I can never ever pass you transcendence, ever. You have to get that. Same thing with special revelation. You cannot pass me revelation. I have to get that. We're in the same boat. Our end goal is just different. It's the do you want to be an individual and return to the origin, reclaim absolute spiritual liberation, or do you want to be the one, a part of the one?
Okay. Do you think I have to consider what you're saying?
No.
Thank you.
No, it's like if we want to conversate, right? Yeah, you could like bounce back and forth. I'd like to hear a third option.
Poor JG. He just like he's too caught up into it. He can't have a discussion if it isn't just to have a discussion or talk about it. Come on, man. He's like, thanks for the long night. I'm out of here. Cash out. Light sig. Yeah, that's another one. Give me my coffee. His little coffee he drinks too, I guess. I don't know. Who the fuck drinks coffee? Fucking losers. Coffee drinkers. You guys need to freaking get shot. I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm not born from this world. I'm one of those non-coffee drinkers. Non-caffeinated. Who needs caffeine? You losers. Anyway, let me go ahead and keep pressing play here.
Like, if there's something outside of the one and absolute individuality.
I think Jay dropped out.
Oh no, I know. I thought somebody else was in here. Jay.
The only thing that could be outside of the one is whatever he created is outside of himself, because it is created. But he puts himself into his creation, and then the whole divine bride union stuff. I think goes into play with that. Maybe he's just a lonely god. Very lonely being, whatever. I guess on top. So you have to go down below, something like that. I don't know. I'm just making weird analogies. Right. I know. That's what I'm saying, JG. It's a joke. It's because he had nothing left to offer. There's no reason. That's all I'm saying. It's like, there really isn't. It's just like, oh yeah, this is just thin air, right? I can't convince you otherwise. I can't convince me. We're just having this chat just to have a chat. It's one of those silly little things. This is just my imagination. If there was a God, now I'm afraid sometimes my brain leans to that, but I hate that. Let me go ahead and continue because I wanted to see this interaction between him and Jill. Also, good morning to you. I changed the channel name. Yeah, just because I thought it would be silly. Has been. So Jill thought it was funny. He laughed earlier. Anyway, let me press play.
Deal.
Feel free to join if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm in here.
Bring up anything else or whatever.
Yeah, is there a
We'll
third
be up for
option?
A bit more.
Because I noticed he dropped out after saying, do you think I have to consider it?
Did he drop out on purpose, or did he just lose connection? Or
I hope he just lost connection. Hopefully he didn't do that on purpose. Yeah, it's a lot to ask somebody to prove things that are unprovable, like apophaticism, transcendent concepts. I don't know, epistemologically at least, right? Like I can give you the framework on how I got to those claims, like with the Epicurean paradox or the ontological exercises. But at the end of the day, no, I can't put on you if they're true or not. I wholeheartedly believe that they're objective, but I'll have somebody that comes along and they'll make these claims. They'll say, well, you can't prove it. So there's some sort of subjectivity going on outside of me that I can't prevent. I can't stop that. I think it's also worth noting, to add to that conversation we were having, is when we talk about ontology, we should be trying to get to the ground, right? To start. That should be the launching pad, is trying to find out fundamentally what the ground of existence is. And I think that's where the problem with the one comes up for me the most, is that how can you have the
Existence, yeah.
ground of existence be a who and not a where? If it's a who, then you are ultimately a part of it. You are just, it's like a drop in the ocean, right?
That's why it gets into. He said polytheism. Polytheism. I think he meant pantheism, but I didn't feel like correcting him because of the whole. It doesn't fit pantheism because he's not saying the material flesh and the material world is a part of the spiritual God. So he actually eliminated and cut that off. But the closest thing he can get to location and place is panentheism, pantheism. One of the two. I always forget which one does whatever, but or both. But yeah, that's a excellent question about location needs to persist before being, and then being the location. How is that possible? But yet, in the form of creation, we don't need to worry about the location for the being, right? If that's the oddity of that, is because God's so perfect he doesn't need a place. Right? Even though he's everywhere, he doesn't need to be in a place. He could be nowhere. Like, that's legit. That's the power of God. Like, he could be nowhere and everywhere. That's part of this freaking omnipresence, man. Like, that's the fucking beauty of it. It's so goddamn powerful. It's stupid. It's brokenly stupid. But if it's alive, then it's alive, and that goes into existence. I was gonna join Cerberus. He was on Daniel's panel the other night, but I didn't feel it would be beneficial to challenge him or on that concept on someone else's channel. So I did not pursue that, but I should have. It would have been a decent opportunity. I let my logic and antisocial tendencies get the better of me, which I'm trying to get better at.
You're a drop for a little bit of time, but then you are reduced back to this who, this other being that ultimately decides or determines your finite existence in becoming. I don't know. I definitely want to hear different views on how that isn't the case. Like how you can have a who as the ground of existence and still be an individual. That would help me tremendously.
How you can have a who?
A who, like a person, right? Like a who, where, why, what, when proposition. Like people.
They live in Whoville, of course. Don't you know? Sorry, I had to make the pun there, especially with the Grinch Stole Christmas being right around the right around the corner. I mean, watching the movie is the season 2. What the fuck did I mean by right around the corner?
People think that the
Christmas
one
is right
is
around
a
the corner.
who, and that we're created by a who, a being, another being. Well, like, how does that look metaphysically? How does that work? If you aren't actually just a part, like it, right, an expression of itself, how are you an individual? But you come from out of this metaphysical being called the one or the creator.
You mean God?
Yeah, what people call God, capital G-O-D.
Well, in the Christian worldview, God creates every person uniquely.
So he creates individuals that
Uniquely.
are separate. How are they separate from it? How are they separate from God?
They're separate from God in that they don't share in all of his attributes. He only shares certain attributes with them: personal freedom, love, ego, the id, He doesn't share his omniscience, his omnipresence, his eternal, of course, because they come into existence at a certain point. So he imprints his image onto them, but that image does not include or exhaust him totally.
Does he
And then
endow
he
us?
allows to develop.
Does he endow us with those attributes?
See, and say that again?
Does he endow us with those attributes
Yeah.
that make us
Yeah, I would
different?
say so.
Okay, so those attributes
And
are
then, well,
within.
well, what makes us different is that he allows us to develop.
Well, the crazy thing about how if God so this really goes into you have to question your reality. And what I'm going to say is probably not for the faint of ears. Or at least I'm not going to make any more friends with these arguments. So the dangerous thing, and I'd say the only dangerous thing, it's not necessarily an evil or good. It really depends on how you feel about the form of manipulation. And I'll call it manipulation for lack of a better word. You can call it selected editing. So one could say that God does intervene in life. We just can't notice it because God does not allow us to notice it. And things that you hear take place are just things that you hear, and they're not actually taking place. And again, that's only going in as far as you ever want to take it, because the idea goes in with that I'm saying is that God can potentially create such a world that everyone's like it. Let's say God can create the world as if it's just right now, like 5 seconds ago, God just created the world. And we're working on whatever God has already placed within us, right? And he's constantly doing these things, but we don't know. How could we know? We could guess like we are right now, like I'm saying, that God is doing these things and then have an awareness of it, but we can't actually tangibly prove it except by maybe speaking it or noticing a shift if it ever were to happen. And even if it were to happen, how could we verify such a thing to even happen, right? So the same thing that goes into like his many, there's a many divine counsel. How can you tell that God didn't design it so that they think that there's also a many while he works in the shadows? Again, this goes back to the whole idea of the Gnostic and Mother Lady Wisdom creating without the consulting of God or whatever, and thus here we are through the birth of that child and whatnot. And then there's a child within that. The true wisdom sends down the true light child to bring people out of the darkness and whatnot and back into the greater realm and whatnot. That being Jesus and what in that I believe. And so like it still doesn't take away from but even in that one would say that it's acting out of accordance, and the one archon is still part of the group, so that's something to be said. So again, going back to God and his divine counsel, what part of it is divine counsel versus God, right? So there's an argument to be made. How are you saying that if you're part of the many that you're not part of God's divine counsel and God's still not in charge? Like that's, I think, a fair question within any type of pantheon that exists. But yeah, to challenge it, not that it's not real, but where does God fit in? And God usually fits in at the top, as he kind of should, because of the grandeur. But yeah, that's the thing. If God is actually, it does intervene without telling one, like make edits and stuff, then that's kind of the case. So like we think of that with like salvation anyway. Like even though people die, they're actually saved and continue living, like things like that. But everyone's awaiting for us in like heaven or some shit at some point in time where there's a complete unity of past, future, and present. And then there would just be that moment of forever. Don't even know how to call it a moment because it's forever, right? That's a weird one. Let me continue pressing play.
Distinct.
Sorry for that long-windedness too.
self-experiences as well. So he imprints us with his image. So we're all made in the image of God, and then he allows us to develop in time.
So God is omniscient, right?
All knowing, yeah.
Yeah, so he knows the eschatology is already figured out. He understands time and how it will unfold, how it begins and ends.
That's right.
Then why is he putting you through becoming? Why is he putting the individual, right, that has these attributes through time and suffering? Because the problem of evil exists in the world that we live in. Why is that the case?
Well, I think only the Christian worldview gives us a satisfactory answer to the problem of evil, and that God is using evil ultimately for good. So I don't believe that there is a such thing as an gratuitous evil. But I think the alternative to evil is non-existence, the only alternative. And what I mean by that is that if God creates, as soon as he creates, it actualizes evil. So evil wouldn't exist if it's just God alone, people would say. But by him creating beings with volition and giving them some of his attributes, but not all of them, means that they are subject to error and they eventually will fall. And that's what happened.
But he knows that, right? His
Right.
omniscience.
But the alternative is nothing
Okay.
but God existing or no creation at
Do
all.
you,
So,
do you have a second? Can I use the restroom and then come back? And did you listen earlier to the Epicurean paradox at all, or did you?
yeah, and I think it's been debunked over and over again.
So how do you escape? So when they say that evil is necessary, what you're saying is you're saying evil is necessary for existence, that we have to have polarity or contraries. There has to be a hate so that we can experience love, dark so we can experience light,
No.
vice versa, hot and cold.
I would never use that argument. I would say that by way of creation, evil is actualized. It becomes possible.
Yeah, there's a
So the
potentiality,
alternative,
right?
so the alternative, so there is no alternative, which is what Epicurus sort of suggests, is that there's an option C. Option
There
C
is
would
though,
be,
and there
well,
is
no,
though.
let me explain why. Option C would be God can create and no evil would exist.
Yes.
Option C, I would say, does not exist.
So he's not
It's an
omnipotent.
impossibility.
So he's not omnipotent.
No, omnipotent doesn't mean that you can do anything. Okay, the
What does it
biblical
mean?
definition of, well, that's the problem with Epicurus's critique, is that it's not an internal critique. But the biblical definition of all powerful means that no one is more powerful than you. Because there are several things in scripture that God cannot do, and the Bible has no problem.
Who says that?
expressing-
Can you
Well,
cite that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
God cannot lie.
Well, no, I'm saying.
So you could do one more thing than God can't do. You can
Well,
lie.
no. What I'm saying though is the word omnipotent literally means all powerful. That
No,
doesn't mean
no.
your power is limited, and that it just means that you're not more powerful.
No, in a biblical context. So when you're doing an internal critique, you must use the
Well, who,
biblical
though?
definition.
Yeah, because all the church fathers didn't agree with this. Like Aquinas
no,
didn't say this.
No, Aquinas did say this. This is where I'm getting this from. So all powerful, Aquinas knew that the Bible teaches, as a matter of fact, God cannot lie. Okay, is that true or false?
I
God
would say it's
cannot.
not true. I would say it's not true.
The Bible doesn't teach that God cannot lie.
Well, yeah, no, they do. They say he's perfect.
Okay,
So
then,
yeah,
so then that's where our critique needs to come from.
but that's
It needs to come from a biblical definition, not a
but that's
Greek or
way down the
Greco-Roman.
road. That's way down the road, right?
What do you mean
Because we
it's way
already
down the road? It's
have
in the Bible.
Well, no,
Not
the
way down
idea that his perfection, is it's contingent to, or the idea that just because we can't do these things, when you say he can't lie,
So the
right?
definition of all powerful then needs to be adjusted to what the Bible says all powerful means, not what a Greco-Roman or Greco-Roman lore says.
But
So
what
there
I
are
meant
things that
earlier,
God cannot do.
what I'm
that we can
saying though is that he can't lie, right? Which makes him all perfect. It adds to the idea that he's all perfect.
Right.
But he also can't create a world without evil. That's kind of strange, right?
Can't create a world without evil.
Yeah, he's
Right,
perfect. He's all
because
perfect. He can't lie.
the Christian worldview explains that perfectly, pun intended. You cannot create without evil.
If you want to talk about evil, like there was literally an age of the dinosaurs where there was no transgression of God. Like there was and transgression, like evil, seems ultimately to be of capable agents, and capable agents who recognize God and whatever. So I don't think animal life and microbial life apply to doing evil. We don't call what we ourselves don't call what animals do evil. They can be violent, but it's not evil. So there was like billions of years or whatever of a perfect world, a perfect system where there was absolutely no evil. Evil didn't enter until mankind entered, and it wasn't even by mankind that evil came by, right? It was from outside, a divine intervention, but not divine intervention by God, just divine intervention by one of the many, you could say, in God's divine counsel, which I'm only saying that because I think it has this potent I don't know how to word it, potent realization to divine counsel and what that means in for God and how that's dealt with, I guess, ultimately, because God, they're just as created. If God's the one who originates their emotion, then it just makes sense to me. Even if he is part of the group, so to speak, he would be the chief, has to be the chief of the group. And I'm not saying that just because I have like a God boner either. It just comes from a place of logic and consistency, I would imagine. So that's kind of my giveaway.
So the alternative
Also, hey Matt,
is
they
no
can see you.
creation at all. Now
said-
the moral
how did that work?
paradigm. Well, hold on, let me finish. Now the moral paradigm becomes twofold, becomes dichotomy. Either you have creation or you have no creation. I would argue that the God that does nothing and does not share his attributes with anyone or anything, angels, humans, etc., is an evil God, as opposed to the God
so
who
we're
does share.
way
his
down the road.
attributes.
We got to move slowly though, right? So like, can we go back
I'm
to
at the
what you
beginning.
said?
I'm at the beginning of
Well,
creation.
no, you're not though,
okay?
because you don't even have a creation, right? Because
I'm at right before creation, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Nothing else
well,
exists.
no, and even then, there's movement, right? The energy essence distinction is still too far down the road. We got to start from the ground, right? And it's circular, right? Because you can always say, well, if God creates things, who creates God? You have to tap out and say, well,
No.
no, there's an eternity. There's
God
an
is
eternity.
eternal. God is
Okay.
the first uncaused cause.
There
Okay,
you go.
That's where
So
we
how does
start.
that exist?
That's where
Listen,
Acquaintance
how
started.
does
That's
that
where we start.
exist? Well, there's
How
a
does
problem.
that exist?
Well, no, stop. It creates a problem with your claim that you say, well, there cannot be a creation without evil, right? That's where you went. That I really wanted you to explore.
Right. Evil is actualized by creation itself, because God, the Bible teaches in Isaiah 44 that no God will be formed. No God was formed before the Creator, and no God will be formed after the Creator. Meaning, God is not duplicating Himself, making perfect beings. When He creates things that are less perfect than He
Yeah,
is.
that's Platonism for sure. No, I understand that,
Okay.
and that is Christian theology.
Okay.
But I'm saying that doesn't add up. That doesn't sound.
It doesn't add up.
Well, yeah, there's an eternal being that exists, but you're not
Okay.
an eternal being. You're actually
Right.
that means you're a part of the one, and then we have a problem because you're
We're
lesser
part of
than and you're evil, and you can
Oh,
lie.
okay. I'm evil. I
It's
can
like-
lie. Right.
It's like the most pure, most simple thing, the Platonic one, right? Gives its genetics. It has an essence that it imparts a piece of, right? But for some reason, there are these attributes that are endowed within you that come from God that involve lying, cheating, stealing, killing. All these things have to come from the Creator. They have to, if He's creating things.
No, they come from the fact that He is making things that are not Himself.
Yeah, but we're talking about a substrate, right? Like there's this eternal place. He's always existed, and He's creating things, right? He's not bringing things out of nothing, or unless you believe that.
Yeah,
Do you believe in?
we do believe in ex nihilo. Yes.
Oh, so you do believe He's bringing things out of nothing?
Yeah, out of nothing He created everything. I believe that. Yeah.
Oh, wait. I'm not getting a clear answer on that. Do
Yeah,
you
out of
believe
nothing. Yeah, I believe creation is ex nihilo. Yes.
Okay, so He's bringing things out of nothing. I would say I cannot buy that. So, yeah, I think that's the fundamental issue. That's where
that's the
ontology
Christian
separates.
worldview. That's why I have a problem with Epicurus, is because he's not critiquing the Christian worldview.
Well, not all Christians believe
propping
that.
up a straw man.
Yeah, not all Christians believe in ex nihilo, but yeah, a lot do. Most Abrahamics, yeah, they do buy ex nihilo, and I think that's a fundamental error in ontology. Nothing cannot.
The idea of nothing in this, like God making it from nothing but by sheer command, like exactly for the deep. The deep was made by sheer command because God willed it. Is actually it's I don't know how people don't view that as it's like getting a 0 from a 1, or a 1 from a 0. Sorry, I said that backwards. You can get a 0 from a 1 by taking away the 1, obviously, but getting the 1 from the 0, right? Usually, which is why, because I used to remember when I was a little child, we used to start at 0, and then for some reason we just stopped and it just started at 1 because you couldn't can't start at 0 with nothing and then 1. It doesn't make sense to start at nothing, because then where does the 1 and the rest come from 0? And that's the thing about God's power, is that God can will these things, can make a 0 into a 1, because he's already a 1, and by his oneness commands the 0, right? It gets wompy, but it's pretty sound, I think. But people can argue and throw their tomatoes at me if they wish. I need all the acid I can get, I guess. Whatever. Let me press play.
Unless you specially plead and say that there's this power that this uncreated being has that is absolutely incognizable, you know.
It's not special pleading.
Well, it's a faith claim. It's a faith claim.
It's a faith claim.
Yeah, you don't experience that, right? Nothing. It's like the first law of thermodynamics. Nothing can be created or destroyed. You cannot destroy a log. You can't destroy a human body. You can't destroy a house. You can't destroy a tree, the ground. Everything just changes into other things. It's all this substrate.
Well, much of the Bible teaches is not teaching you things that you can prove within your own.
I agree.
Your own
I agree with
temporal.
that.
But I'm just telling you, that's what the Bible teaches. That in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. There's no God.
So-
there is God in the beginning. God creates.
Yeah. So what about John's beginning though, where it says in the beginning was God?
Right. In the beginning was the Word. And
Yeah.
the Word was God. So
Okay.
so Christ was there in the beginning as God. So the Father was there, and so was the Holy Spirit. So they always existed. The Bible teaches that they are uncreated,
So
self-existent, the one.
so you're saying that the waters were made out of nothing. He brought the waters into existence, or did the waters not already exist when he looked upon them?
Well, everything came into existence by his word, by the power of God's
Well,
power.
I went back to Genesis, right? So when he says in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, right?
Mhm.
So the waters weren't there. He wasn't forming that out of the waters.
No, I don't believe that there was pre-existent matter. All matter, energy, spirit, time, space, anything else that exists owes its very being to God alone. for
Gotcha.
existence.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm familiar with the view. I think that's, yeah. See, I'm looking for something. I'm trying to come across somebody who is more aligned with my viewpoint so I can refine it, right? And that's not nothing against you. I'm just saying that there probably can't be much building. There's probably not enough similarity here in ideas to build upon, which is, it's not a bad thing. But yeah, I probably don't have anything to offer you as well. because
No, unless you
I'm
try to
with it.
suggest the Bible teaches otherwise.
No, I don't. I agree that that's what the Bible teaches, and yeah, I would say that, and not to offend you or anything, but I don't know. I seek the truth outside of the Bible. I'm not like sola scriptura. I don't think that the Bible necessarily has the complete picture in it. It has pieces. There's allusions to things, but yeah, I don't think that you just give up at the Bible and then say everything is impinging on this.
So where do you gain this information or knowledge from, other than if it's not the Bible? Other
Yeah, I would
books
say
or-
just like people get revelation from the Bible, you can get it from yourself. You don't need
So-
this outside entity to endow you with it. You can do that. It's anamnesis, apophaticism, trying to negate what the world offers you, and then it like kind of creates a vacuum within yourself, and then the true reality.
See, the only problem with that is that really goes into being a image, right? Because you're looking for yourself, which means you're looking for your image. And if you can have many, like, this is why I was telling him, you can have many images of yourself, but there are some that are true, and there are some that are fake, right? And they're probably more fake than there are real ones if people really look at themselves honestly, and they don't want to face the honest ones. And sometimes some of the honest ones are too honest and break people to create the delusionist ones, which become truth, masks and things like that. And so the question is, in your individuality, are you looking for self, or are you looking for someone else? Are you looking to be noticed? And I guess if you're noticed by someone else, does that take away the solipsism-ish? Because then there's a lot of is it just me, right? I think, but I didn't say I know. I'm just saying I think I can understand what he's saying.
Keeps in.
So you conjured up somehow these ideas outside or from within yourself.
Yeah, from within yourself. Kind of like the people who wrote the Bible figured out that God exists and that they needed to communicate His word through the Bible. You
Are
can
you
do
talking
that.
about the Old Testament? Because that's really not
Yeah,
narrative.
or the Vedas, or any philosophical or religious doctrine that's metaphysical. Every man has to do that. They go into themselves, and then they try to compare that to the outside world and try to make claims about it, and then they end up forming religions.
So you're
Sometimes
doing an internal critique, because that's not the story of the Bible. The story
No,
of
it
the
is,
Bible is
though.
God interfering in time and space, and they experiencing that. over and over and over again to where they develop a faith. They develop a pistis.
One work of fiction I like that actually dismantles what he's saying, Hyperborean, is the Prometheus from Aliens, and that's with the creation of David, and David is asked to pour the tea because it kind of shows the nature of things. Like you're given these things, you're not left to find out, and if anything, you're gonna find out. And in David's case, it was to outgrow the creator to where a point he didn't need the creator. And the creator, being finite, didn't like that and showed him what was what by having him be the servant, even though he's already outranked his creator. And that's something to be said about us in the same breath. How much more can we outdo Jesus with just little faith, right? And that in itself is something that we're given and received. So when we talk about finding it in ourselves, do we find God, and that itself is our own gift? But if you're not looking at the light, but something that reflects its shape, then you're not close, even if it's internal. Because you're still denying the ultimate source, which I wonder goes into God becoming an enemy of people in that regard. They can get so close, they can see the light, they can see a shimmer of the reflection of God in the water, but they can't yet approach. It's wonderful, I guess, either way.
A faith in evidence.
Yeah, no one's seen the face of God without dying. So it's
No
not
one's
a
seen
God,
the
right?
face.
It's like a messenger or something. It's like a cherubim, seraphim, Ophanim, throne, king. There's this whole great chain of being or spiritual hierarchy that serves him and does his bidding, like the bush or something, right? The Moses. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Are you talking
Well,
about?
when the Bible says the Lord appeared to Abraham, it means that no human can see God's full divine essence and live other than the Son, who is God in the flesh. So Abraham likely saw an angel manifesting, representing God. But why what does that have to do with anything that was said previously? I don't see how that connects.
Well, no, I'm saying that. Well, no, it didn't. You brought it there, right? I didn't make some tangent, right? You're asking about these beings. You said that no, that's not what the Bible says. It's actually God interfering. I'm saying
Right.
I'm saying a man says that he experienced God and saw him.
Okay.
It's an internal thing. Sometimes
Well,
when
you
this God
you
is
don't have to
around,
believe him.
other people aren't around.
Well, you
Sometimes
don't have
they
to
are.
believe them, but you don't have to believe the people of God in general when they experience these things, even as a tribe or a group. They experience several manifestations: pillar of cloud or pillar of fire, a cloud by night or a cloud by day, pillar of fire by night. So they experienced several manifestations, the burning bush, and it wasn't always an individual thing like Muhammad. So, I mean, this is recorded in human history, whether you take it as
No, I believe
history
it.
or
I'm
not.
just saying that some people claim that they know the one or whatever, and that the one everyone needs to be subjected or subject to that one, and that's a deception. I'm saying that, yeah, you can have these experiences, and these are people telling you that themselves, right? Like you didn't see the Lord. I mean, you may have. I'm just making that claim because it seems like you're relying on the Bible to give you that revelation that the Lord exists because Abraham said he saw it or whatever. You can do that. You can become an Abraham if you change the way you walk in life. You can experience these things.
I can see or experience or interact with the divine.
Yeah, through intermediaries. Yeah, or you die, right? That's what the Bible says. You lay your eyes upon the face of the Lord, you die. No one lives after looking at the face of the Lord. That's why he sins.
But why is looking at the face of the Lord something that's necessary to
It's
understand?
not. I'm just telling you that they're intermediaries. They're other people. They're other beings. They're servants.
Other beings, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That God created, that God is sending.
Yep.
Or-
That's what it
right.
says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so
But it's a person that does that, right? It's kind of like Joseph Smith. He comes back and he's got these tablets or whatever. Or Abraham comes back to his sons and is like, no, I was told this. Now I need to cut your dick or whatever.
well, the story of the Bible just isn't about one person having an experience and therefore,
No, it's a lineage.
but
It's a
it's-
succession.
right? It's 40 different authors over a time span of 1,400 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, like Stephen King wrote a book where there's storylines with fictional characters who talk to each other and there's a succession, right? Like H.P. Lovecraft did that. Fiction writers can do that. I don't think that
Well, you would have
gives
to
me-
demonstrate. You would have to demonstrate. Well, first of all, this type of fantasy, or this type of historical fiction, I guess you can call it.
Yeah,
That genre didn't really exist back then.
it most
people-
absolutely did. Yeah.
Okay, but can you show me an ancient
Yeah,
writing?
every form of mythology, almost every form of paganism's mythology does it, including
It's
the
written.
Hebrew.
Well, if you take a look at some of the ancient writings, they're all allegory. Basically, they're not telling you They're not giving you historical.
No. Pagans actually go a step further. Even it seems like the Hebrews.
Right. So that's not historical fiction. Is the point I'm making? Historical fiction would be something like Superman minus the made up people, places, and particulars. So Superman is.
Well, no,
supposed to
I'm
be
saying
set in
that's
New
what
York
it is.
City.
That's
It's supposed to be. You might even use Mayor Giuliani. You might even
no. I'm
use
saying
real.
that's what it is. That's what it's derived from, right? And then eventually, yeah, it became.
Okay,
there were
so-
fanatics who
relevant.
there was fanatics who came along and made it history.
Oh, I see. Okay, well then you would have to demonstrate that. You couldn't just give me innuendo.
Well, yeah, it's well demonstrated, right? Like earlier, I brought up Richard Carrier's work. There's
Richard Carrier?
Are you not familiar with Richard Carrier?
I'm very familiar with the one. You take one.
Well, no, there's more in his class. I'm just giving you a good solid.
So there are two still left.
There's not two. I mean, there's a whole field. If you're familiar with Richard Carrier, I'm sure you're familiar with more. But no,
okay.
he has a specific work that is like a.
Is that the consensus?
It's not
Is
the
Richard
consensus.
Carrier's work? Okay, all right. Just
No,
making
you seem
sure.
offended by me bringing up Richard Carrier.
Well, no, I'm not
sorry.
offended. I'm just shocked that you would argue.
Yeah, no, I'm saying his work on the historicity of Jesus, the reason for doubt. That book is pretty. I don't know. It's pretty
It's not the
elucidating.
consensus. I mean, you could take interest in something that is not non-consensus work.
I think
but
we're moving towards that, though. Most academics are finally moving away from the
critical
historicity.
scholarship.
Yeah.
Critical scholarship.
Critical
because
scholarship
they're
is moving
liberals.
away.
Because they're liberals and they rely on innuendo to promote anything they believe. This even in the political scheme.
I would agree that they're liberals. That's true. That's true. That's
Okay,
true.
so we don't want to rely on people who have ulterior motives. We
Well,
want.
no, I wouldn't say they're politically liberal, right? Like, not all of them are politically liberal. No, not all of them are registered leftists or whatever, right? But no,
well-
like liberal, yeah, they're open-minded. Yeah, almost too far, right? They're not.
Well, by liberal, I
conservative.
mean they use the same tactics of the left when it comes to propaganda. They're not
What?
giving you facts. They're putting
Richard Carrier isn't giving you facts.
no. Richard Carrier does not give you facts. He does not.
So you didn't read the book.
He gives you. Actually, I've read several of his publications. Not all.
Did you
of
read
them.
On the Historicity of Jesus?
I did. Yes.
It's well cited with ancient sources and.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me give you what the left does. The left promotes what they call facts, but they are what we would say are irrelevant factoids. And let me share with you the difference. If I say Sally went to the store to buy a loaf of bread, you're going to tell me she had 50 cents in her pocket. That might be true, but it is irrelevant to the point that I'm making. It's really a red herring. It's a distraction.
You think Richard Carrier's work on the historicity of Jesus is red herrings?
Yes. Oftentimes.
That
and
is
I've- and I've-
crazy.
and I've debated liberal scholars like Dr.
So all
Josh
the
Hamrabi.
retroactive additions, the literary analysis, the breakdown of how, like the chronology of the
Let
text,
me
source
tell
document.
you why. Because I've debated liberal scholars like Dr. Josh Hamrabi. What they'll
Mm-hmm.
do is they'll provide you with information that was true, let's say, about the ancient Near East in that time, but was not necessarily true of the
Wait,
Israelite people
this
who
is
lived
con-
in the ancient Near East during that time.
No, this
So
is
you'll
confusing.
come away thinking that, okay, this applies to innuendo. You'll come away thinking
No,
this
though. No,
applies.
so you're moving.
to the
No.
Hebrews.
The
Let me finish my
historicists do
point.
this too, though.
Can I finish my point?
But it's emphatically wrong because
No, it's not. I'm telling you what they're doing in liberal scholarship, and I can show you several.
No, I'm telling you
examples.
why it's irrelevant, right? Because the historicists do this. They do the same thing.
Historians look at what the actual people group do. Not
No,
what
they're
people
using
groups are
history
doing-
too.
not-
They're
not what
pointing you
people-
towards.
Hold on.
Okay.
Not what people groups are doing surrounding them, and then suggest through innuendo
No,
that this must also be what they're doing in their histories as well.
You're straw manning it. So that's
No,
not.
I'm not
what they do.
strawmanning. That's
So like, so maybe the
typical
guy you're talking
liberal
about,
scholarship.
maybe because I'm unfamiliar with him. But
But
Richard
Carrier
Carrier
does that as well.
absolutely,
Carrier does that as
Carrier
well.
absolutely does not do that. He actually takes
read
historical documents. from those
Historical
groups.
documents that are not applicable
They
to
are
the
though.
people
They,
of God.
but they
Right,
are.
that's the rules. That's the rules. The rules or the trick is I'm going to deposit historical facts that were
That's what the
true of the
historicists do.
surrounding nations, that were true of the surrounding nations.
Pause though.
And
Pause.
therefore, hold on, and therefore, because it was true of the surrounding nations, this also must be true of the Hebrew people, the
Listen,
Israelite people.
This what you don't even.
That's
realize
the
that
mistake they're making.
You're being self-defeating though right now because literally the only other option you have is historicity. By
The
virtue of being,
historicity of the
listen,
Bible, not the historicity of other surrounding nations who have their own culture.
No. The academics who are historical, the guys who are Jesus historicists, they use historical documents. Typically Tacitus, Josephus. They don't rely solely on the Bible. That's
The
circular.
Bible is the soul and the most trustworthy.
We don't even have a source Bible. They admit that.
For the time that it's written of, especially the New Testament.
Okay, when is the earliest gospel that we have?
According to historians, according
year
to,
is the
hold on,
earliest
hold on, Let me finish my point, please, before you get into your inquisition. Okay, according to most historians, the New Testament is the sole authority for the people, places, and particulars of that time in that region.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to go to a secondary source and prop that up, go right ahead.
No. When is
But
it?
we have
though?
the
So
New
you're talking
Testament,
about the Gospels.
that-
I'm giving
okay.
you that, Jill. I'm giving you that.
Okay.
When
right,
is
so
the
don't give
earliest
me-
dated? Listen, the Gospels. When is the earliest one we have? The actual tangible scroll. The
The
actual
earliest one,
paper.
the
Yeah.
earliest extant or surviving manuscript.
Yes, exactly.
I'm
the ones that
thinking
we
around
observe.
first century,
No,
first, second century.
there you go. Now that's a problem, right? Because they're not.
No,
there.
it's not a problem. Not for ancient
They're
sources.
not there.
Wait a minute. It's not a problem for ancient sources. That is actually the best you can actually get. when you compare them to other ancient texts.
No, though, we
See,
have
the problem with liberal scholarship is that they have set the standard for the Bible higher than they set the standard for any other historical writing, ancient
no, that's not
historical writing.
true. You
Yes,
keep
it
doing
is.
this thing
Okay.
where you go,
So
you
so
keep
so
leaving
you mentioned the
information
gap.
out.
Let me prove it. Let me prove it. So you mentioned the gap of 100 years, and you said that's a problem.
It is.
Correct?
And we
Okay.
but there's a misnomer that you didn't let me say, right? Because you're leaving
Okay.
it out, and it's crucial. We have historicists that lived during his time that are huge, famous historians that never wrote anything down about
That's
him.
irrelevant. That's another
Okay,
irrelevant
that's irrelevant.
factoid. This
Gotcha.
is what liberal scholarship deposits: irrelevant factoids.
Why is that
The
irrelevant?
fact
Why
that
wouldn't they
they're
write down
because
that?
you don't expect, we don't in ancient writings, we don't expect there to be a round robin of
The
reporting.
dude
when it
rose
co-
from the
hold on,
dead,
hold on, hold on,
and
hold on, hold on, my
people
guy. You
literally
need to know
zombies
this.
got
You need to
crawled out
know
of
this.
graves.
Hold on, you need to know this because liberal scholarship, critical scholarship, is deceiving the masses with innuendo and fake news, what Trump
I'm
calls
still not
fake news.
satisfied with your
Okay,
answer.
hold on. In ancient writings, we know we've collected all of the ancient writings we've collected. We know that other places, regardless of how special the information is in the writings or how spectacular, miracles, rising from the dead, people coming, regardless of how fantastical the writings are, we know that they are limited to the region in which they come from. We know
These
that
people
other
are from
regions,
Galilee.
other
That's what I'm
regions,
saying. They're there
right,
on
and
the
that's
scene,
why
and they
you
don't write
only
it.
see, that's why you only see people in that region writing about Jesus. We don't
But
expect
I'm
other
saying they
people,
didn't.
Who's to say that again? All the records, if we don't have keepers of the original, that their originals would last and be preserved, right? So even if they did write about it, and there was a big conspiracy to hush it all up, and all their writings would get destroyed about it, kind of like what they would do to ancient pharaohs, just eat them out of existence, strike them from the records, right? How do we know that that's not the same thing that's going on here? And yet the only thing that's able to remain is the sad little in group that's left behind, literally the remnant, because all the other stories are wiped out of existence. I mean, that's a possibility, because especially in human nature, right? It's not like a fabrication. And actually, that looks seems a little bit kind of on the nose. If all that's left is just a little in group of this writing, as much as it seems like, hey, this in group has this fabrication, right? Seems a little weird. Anyway, let me continue.
Oh, no, no.
You
I'm
just said,
saying
why
they
don't we
didn't.
see other people? Oh, we just said, why don't we see
You're-
other people writing about these things?
You're
just
talking
said
too
that.
much, and you're not listening.
Now you're
I
walking it
literally-
back. Now you're
I'm not walking it back. I literally said the opposite of what you just said.
Should we? Okay, let me ask you this. Now
I
you're
claim
walking it
the
back.
opposite.
All right, so let
Instead
me
of
ask
straw
you.
manning me.
Well, let me ask you.
But wait, you're literally filling me full of straw right now.
Groups? Okay, let me ask you. Should
I
we
said the
see-
opposite.
Okay,
There were
let me ask you. All right,
historians
let me
there
ask you. Let me ask you
in
the
the
question,
area
and then you can give me the
who
opposite.
should
of
have
what you said
witnessed
earlier.
the
Okay,
guy
let me
rising
ask
from
you
the dead and then
Let me ask you the
raising
opposite.
zombies out of the grave.
Should we see other groups writing about Jesus and his miracles other than the people from Palestine? Yes or no?
Yeah, it happened before.
Okay, then so you are saying that, buddy. Why are you?
No,
why are you
I'm
lying?
not saying that that's not possible. I'm saying you're.
Wait.
I
You're
never said
saying
that.
we should see other groups outside of Palestine writing about Jesus because of the
Yeah.
fantastical nature of the story.
I never said that was
Miracles,
the issue.
people rising
Why
from
are
the
you
dead.
straw manning me so heavily?
Okay, so
I
you
never
didn't
said
say
that
that.
was the issue.
Okay. Are you saying that or are you not
I'm
saying
not.
that? 'Cause
I
you
told
seem to be
it's-
double talking
This
here.
I'm not though.
seem to
This is
be
what
double
you've been
talking.
doing for the past 5 minutes
Okay,
once we brought up
okay,
the
let me ask you
historicity of
again.
Jesus. How about
Okay,
you
let
let
me
me
ask you
say it
again.
instead of talking? Let me say it again.
Let
because
me ask you
you
again.
obviously
Should we
didn't hear it.
see? Should we
Well,
expect
you're still
to see?
talking. You want me to say
Should-
it so I can steel man it?
No, because you keep
Let me
lying,
steel man my
dude.
position.
You keep lying. You keep saying and
I'm
walking
not
back
lying.
and then walking forward and then taking a step
You're
back.
you're
Okay, let me ask you
obviously
again.
emotionally
Should we
affected
see?
by this discussion because you won't let
Should
me
we see?
actually lay down
Should
my
we see
position.
other groups? Should we expect to see historically? Should we expect to see
You're not going
historically?
to straw man me. I've
Other
already
no, I'm
agreed
not
with that.
strawmanning you. I'm asking you a question.
I already said yeah.
Okay, then. So you do believe we
That's
should
not the
expect to
point. No,
Well, that
you
is
still
the
are
point.
doing it. You're straw
That
manning
is
me.
the point.
You're
The point
trying
is
your
that
hardest
you
to talk
have a
through me and
have a
tell me what I'm
misunderstanding
saying,
of how
and you're
history
not
is
letting me
rendered
actually
in
say
the
what I was
ancient
saying.
times. That's your problem. You
Dude,
don't
you're so
understand how
triggered by
history
this.
is
This is
rendered in the
crazy.
ancient times. Historically, we don't need to see other groups writing about
You
fantastical
are
events
so triggered by
outside of the
this.
region that they come from. Okay, so that's your first mistake. You fell for that trick.
I didn't say that. I literally just agreed with it. What are you talking about?
So we should not expect to
You
hear.
talked yourself into circles because you're so triggered
Well,
that you literally blacked me out. You
you-
muted me out and you won't let me talk. It's crazy, but
Oh,
I'll
go
let you
ahead. Go
continue.
ahead. I disagree. I don't believe we should see other groups writing about Jesus outside of the group he came from. And that's what the pattern we see
Well, no,
historically.
it came later. No, outside the group he came from is different from in other locations. No, it did come from them by traveling to other locations. That's how it spread. They were giving
40 to 70 AD. 40 to 70 AD.
there
which
was
is
no 40 to 70
remarkable,
AD.
Which is that's according to most scholars.
No, the earliest collection of gospels it was in 140 given 120 140 AD.
They were
And that was
written.
Marcion.
Okay, so they survived.
No,
Those
they
are the
didn't
Those are
survive.
their surviving manuscripts.
No, he even admits that. He even says we don't know if these come when or where they come from, right?
He doesn't-
Marcion is the guy who put it together, and he admits that.
He doesn't
And his
know where they
doctrine
come
is the
from.
and his doctrine is heretical. But my point was
Okay.
earlier before
The
you
earliest New
strawman me,
Testament writings are considered to be the letters of Paul, which
who
date
was
around
compiled
50,
by
which date around 50 CE. That's
no,
remarkable.
they're not. We do not have any
Yes.
document from Paul from 50.
I said
No,
they're
we don't.
dated. Okay, so now you're conflating dating of the Bible with actual extant surviving.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah,
manuscripts.
no, you're right.
Okay,
right.
all right.
But we don't
So
have
which-
those. We don't
Okay,
have
we don't have to have. We don't have any ancient manuscript, the original. So again, when you're taking an ancient manuscript in critical
we
scholarship,
moved past though the thing that
Well,
you
hold on.
drowned
Let
me
me
out
finish my
earlier.
point.
You
Let me
literally
finish my
smashed
point.
and
Can we go
drowned me
point
out
for
and
point?
then
Can we try to?
I
Can
mean,
we try
you've
to go
done this
point
though.
for
Can you be
point?
courteous enough to let me at
Well,
least
it-
touch upon
Yeah,
the straw
I
man?
was, and you made a point. and I
didn't,
was trying
though.
to respond to that.
You did it though.
Okay.
You straw man me earlier.
I didn't
and-
strawman
and
you.
and
You
never
did say
gave me
that
a si-
earlier, and
No,
then
you
you
did,
walked
though.
it back, and
And
now
you're doing it right now.
I don't know what you're doing, but
No, I
you're
didn't walk
saying
anything
things
back.
and then
You-
walking them back 10
You
seconds
never
later.
mentioned my
I've
point.
actually never seen people do that before.
You've
but-
never mentioned my point. You
So it's
actually
not-
never actually brought up what I said and answered it. You moved the goalpost and straw man me and said, well, we shouldn't be seeing these stories outside of the groups that saw it. I never said that. What I said is that we know that there were actual historians
Okay, so let's
who lived
walk
in the
back.
area. Hold on, before you drown me out. There were historians who lived in the area during the time of his death and his resurrection who didn't write a thing, but they wrote other things. They wrote about this guy and this thing and this transition, this trade, this king, like all that was written, but not the big fanatical, the fantastic mystical stuff. They didn't write any of that down. That was my point. But that's irrelevant. The guys who are there on the ground don't write anything about it, but then it comes 100 years later. That's crazy how that's irrelevant. And you never like provided any rebuttal to that. You just said it's irrelevant.
Okay, so let's walk back to your first era. Okay, when you first claimed that we should expect to see other groups or other writers or other historians writing about Jesus in Palestine. Okay, you no longer believe that we should see those things, correct?
No, we
Or
should
do
see
you
those
still-
things.
okay,
We
so you
should, and we
still-
don't.
Okay, so you still are holding on to liberal scholarship, critical scholarship bullshit, and their innuendo.
Why does that
And
have
their
anything
lies.
to do with the
Okay?
actual
Well,
point?
hold on. Let me show you why.
You're not
Let me show
addressing
you
the
why.
point.
And I let you talk.
Why did that historian
I
not
let
write
you
it?
talk. I let you talk, please.
You've already went through
We
this. Though. You
don't. when
already
we
said
look
that
at-
it's a liberal
hold
talking
on.
point.
I let you talk, please. So when we are looking at ancient, what they're not telling you is when we're looking at ancient manuscripts or ancient historical writings, we never see, regardless of how fantastic they are, we never see outside groups writing
already had
about.
that
Can I finish my point?
Mythology
And then
does
you
it
can
every day.
respond.
Every day
Can I
before
finish
that,
my
it happened.
point? And then you respond, please. I didn't cut you
You're
off.
going in a circle. Flashback.
I didn't cut you off.
Yeah, you guys are just over talking each other
You
too
keep
much.
taking me into a circle. You keep going in a circle and then
You
telling
won't
me you're
address
not
the
going in a
point.
circle.
Why did the historian not
Okay,
write it?
I'm going to answer that when you admit that you are using this as a criteria to judge veracity or authenticity.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm telling you that liberal scholarship is lying to you. Ancient
How is it
manuscript.
lying?
Let me explain. And then you can respond. Ancient manuscripts never have corroborating sources outside of the region they come from, unless that region was in a battle or conflict with an outside region. But you're not going to find mythologies, stories that people tell, old wives' tales. You're not going to find those stories in other cultures.
It's absolutely not true. but
Information
sure,
did not
believe that.
travel. Information did not travel like we have information traveling today. in that same sense.
That is
So-
emphatically wrong. Do you not
Okay,
understand
show me-
anthropology at all?
Give me an example.
I
Give me
don't
an
know,
example.
the Scythians, the Ostrogoths, Goths
What
period,
are they?
Visigoths,
What are they? Okay.
the
what
Vandals.
stories? Give me an example of
The
ancient
Persian.
Hindu. Hold on.
I
Give
mean,
me an
dude, the list
example.
goes on
You're
and
not
on
giving
and
me
on.
specifics. You're giving me vague.
That's where we
vague
get the.
statements.
That's
Okay,
how we
I
get the
want
syncre-
specifics. I want
Okay,
specifics.
that's
Give me
the
an example.
syncretism.
Give me an example of an ancient writing that has to do with culture and God and
The flood.
deities
The flood mythos.
outside of the Greco-Roman lore.
The flood mythos.
Oh,
for
let me
instance,
give you
right?
let me give you history. Let me do a
So I'm
history.
giving you one, and
Let
you're
me
not
give
going
you
to
history.
address it.
Hold on. Let me
The
give
whole
you
entire
history.
world has this flood
Give me
mythos.
Livy. Give me
When-
Livy outside of the Greco-Roman.
Livy is not
lore.
okay. That's not
He's
mythology.
a historian. He's writing about events that take place in his region, right? The only
Okay,
time he
I'm
writes
saying this
about
isn't
the only
history.
time he writes about other
You're proving
regions
my point.
is if they have
No,
to
you're
do
actually
with.
proving my point.
Hold on, let me finish.
I'm not saying
No,
it's
let me
history.
finish
I'm
my
saying
point.
it's
Let me
mythology.
finish my point, and then
The
you can
Bible is
respond.
mythology. That's why that
Okay,
happened.
Livy, for
You're not
example.
getting the connection.
Hold on, let me finish my point, and then you can respond. Livy, for example, is a historian, but he never writes about events that take place in Palestine unless they are connected to Rome and Rome's conquest of those nations. Go ahead. Prove me
Yeah,
wrong.
no, that's not comparable right now
How is
because
it not comparable? I'm showing you.
because
that
I'm
ancient
my
writings-
example is
ancient
of the
writings
historian that is
don't
in
do world news.
Palestine. Your
Ancient
example
writings-
is about.
Ancient historians don't do world news. Prove me
I did-
wrong.
I didn't say that. I never
Okay, then
said
so
that.
why do
It's
you
like you
expect
can't
other
comprehend.
Okay,
You
then so
actually
why
can't
are you
comprehend what
putting
I'm
that?
saying.
Okay, so why are you putting that requirement on the Bible
I'm
alone?
not. I never said that. I said that there was a historian there who was in the immediate area that wrote history and didn't write that thing that happened in the immediate area. Every other
Who?
historian's doing that.
Where?
Every other historian's doing that.
Okay, where are the historians who are in the Bible times who are not writing about the Bible?
There's a whole fat list. Hold on.
Where? In the Old
Hold on.
Testament was
gotta
4,000,
answer my door.
6,000 BC. Where? Where are the Plutarch? That's second, third. What are you talking about, dude? You can't get to the Greco-Roman era and suggest that everything that they wrote is gospel and there were no historians before Greece and Rome. That is the most Eurocentric, racist, xenophobic thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And you're not even a liberal. The history does not begin with Greece and Rome, my friend.
I'm sorry, that one got me. And you're not even a liberal. I like how at the end there he said the thing he named a dude and then he's like, that's whatever, like as if he said that, but I guess he's not necessarily addressing him, just letting him know.
Other people wrote about events that took place before Greece and Rome was writing about events that took place. And even when you look at the Greco-Roman historians, they are primarily secondary sources. They are not primary. The primary source for the New Testament and the things that take place during that time is the New Testament, not Greco-Roman historians who came later, who are writing after the fact. They're the ones writing after the fact. They're the ones who you need to take as secondary, not primary. And that's based on the dating, by the way. It's not based on my bias. That's based on the dating itself. So if you're going to use the dating as a criteria, then the New Testament is superior to any other writing, regardless of what they said about the New Testament events, regardless of what they said about Paul, regardless of what they said about Jesus. They all would still be considered secondary sources. The people who wrote about the biblical events were actually in the Bible, not outside the Bible. And we don't expect anyone in Rome, even the ones living during that time. I mean, we do have some writings from Josephus. We do have some writings from mentioning Jesus Christ and mentioning Christians and those types of things, which helps to corroborate the story of the Bible itself. But Paul is writing, historians suggest, around 50 CE. That is remarkable. That's Thessalonians. Thessalonians is dated around 50. The Galatians is dated around 48 CE. So it's often cited as the very first epistle. And then we even find earlier fragments like the 1 Corinthians 15 Creed, 35 CE. That's the oldest Christian material. Within the New Testament, books themselves mostly were written by 100 CE, by the end of the first century. So this you can scholars have suggested because it's relying on internal evidence for dating. So scholars are not really necessarily looking at what you're looking at. That's the problem with critical scholarship. They take your eyes away from what's important and they fix you onto 40 to 70, or some even say 100 AD. Oh, it's not reliable. But if you take a look at the ancient manuscripts that are in existence, the Bible, let me just say this, the Bible has more bibliographic support And if you don't know what the bibliographic test is for veracity, for authenticity, I can tell you that as well. The Bible has more, the New Testament has more bibliographic support than any ancient manuscript or writing, perhaps more so than all of them combined. True or false?
Sorry, I missed a bunch of that. I had to.
Do you know what the bibliographic test is for authenticity of ancient manuscripts? Do you even know what the test
No,
is?
not off the top of my. I've heard of it, but I don't know it like off the top of my
Okay.
head. The methodology.
So do you know that the New Testament has more bibliographic support than all
I've heard the
ancient
claim.
historical writings combined?
I've heard the claim. Yes.
Okay. So but you've never actually figured out whether or not the claim was true, or
No, I've heard it's not true, but
oh, okay.
I'm not
So-
familiar deeply with its methodology.
Okay, the bibliographic test is simply twofold. I'm sure there's a nuance to this, but the sheer number of manuscripts and also the gap in between the earliest surviving manuscript or extant manuscript and the events chronicled.
Mhm.
So the gap for the New Testament is about 40 to 100 years. Most scholars, liberal, conservative, would agree. The gap for the closest that you even get to that, I would say Livy. The gap between Livy is about 500 years, maybe even 1,000 years. So you have 1,000 years in between the earliest surviving manuscript that we have and the actual events that chronicled when they actually happened. Yet we take Livy's writings as quote unquote historical. We don't question it. It's only when it comes to the Bible. If you're paying attention, this is why I hate critical scholarship, because they do this to people and it's all propaganda. They will prop up the 40 to 70 years, the 40 to 100 years. Look at that. It's no way this was written by the people who were in the Bible. Just like you stated here. They'll prop that up.
I
but
didn't
not-
say that.
but
You're
not-
doing it again. I
okay,
didn't say that.
You were
You
suggesting.
notice that I don't. Hold on, real quick. You
because
notice
it's
that I
in your
don't say
window.
that you
It's in
said.
your window. Okay,
But
it's
I
not,
don't.
you didn't
I
say it.
never said that.
I
I'm saying
understand.
the opposite of that.
Well, let me rephrase. Liberal scholarship doesn't say that. Bart Ehrman doesn't say it. Carrier doesn't say
Bart
it.
Ehrman believes
what
that
they'll do
Jesus
is,
was
what they'll do.
historical.
Hold on. I'm not saying he's a mythicist. He does the
Yeah.
same thing with other teachings. Okay, but what they're doing is they're propping up this 40 to 70 years as to suggest, it's called innuendo. This is why I hate liberal scholarship, to suggest that that's a problem. What I'm
It's
showing
one
you
of many problems.
exactly, and you believe it. That's why
Well,
I'm
yeah, it supports. It
Okay.
helps uphold
Okay,
all the
so you
other
don't
list of
have-
issues.
Oh, buddy, hold on. So you don't have to come out and say it for you to come away with the idea that that's a problem.
No,
Because
it
they
is just
didn't
because you
say
can
it
produce a lot
directly.
of.
They didn't
Just
say it
because you can
directly. They
produce
said
a
it
lot
through
of
innuendo.
writing in a
Do you
short
see-
amount of time
I
doesn't
hope-
mean that it historically happened.
I
No,
hope that
there's not
we're
a
all paying
one-to-one
attention
correlation there.
to how I hope we're all paying attention in the chat, whoever's listening, to how powerful innuendo actually is and why the left is so dangerous. Because they don't have to say it
So
to
first of all,
suggest it. You don't have to say the Bible is
you're doing a
unreliable.
false equivalency
You
fallacy. You,
don't
think that I'm a leftist?
No, I'm not.
For instance,
I'm
am I a
hitting the
leftist?
nail on the head, which is scaring you. You
No,
don't
I'm-
have to say
If anybody's
Bible
triggered,
is
it's you because I
unreliable.
can't say a word. The only reason
Actually,
there's been
you
talking
can
over
say
each
a
other
word.
is because
When
I'm
I try
trying
to
my
re-
hardest to fight to
Okay,
talk. With
when
you.
I try to respond to you, you start talking, and then you say I'm
No,
cutting
you
you
don't.
off.
You don't let me talk. There's no response. I don't
Okay,
get to talk.
so what did
You
you
tell
want
me
to
what
Go
I
ahead.
say, and then I don't
Go
get
ahead.
to
What did
defend
you wanna say?
myself.
I'll finish after you. What did you want to say? Go ahead. Go ahead. You didn't
Yeah,
want
no.
to say
What
anything.
you're saying,
just wanted
you're
to-
describing. You're
Go ahead.
describing one issue out of many, right? And then
I'm
you
dealing
use
with
the
one issue at a
bibliographical
time. That's
test.
how I usually deal with things. One
Yeah,
issue at a time.
It's the only that I've
And
heard
that
so far. So
frustrates
what's the
me.
next one?
That
Yeah.
fresh. No, we're going to stay on this point until it's exhausted.
Yeah, I'm
and
saying
you
there's
come
not a
to- and
one-to-one
you come to a point of
correspondence.
reflection. You're doing it again. You're asking me a question. I try to respond. You cut me off and say,
What question did I ask you? What question did I ask
You
you?
said, well, what is it that we're talking about this issue alone right
I
now?
didn't ask that.
And you're getting upset because I'm not trying to talk about something else.
No, I didn't
We're
ask you
gonna-
anything.
we're gonna talk
I was
about this
actually
issue.
trying to say something once again.
Oh, go ahead. Say what you got to say about
Yeah,
this
you
issue.
think that there's a one-to-one correlation with the bibliographical test and the proof of historicity. That's not true. It doesn't
What do
mean
you
that
mean?
it's historical just because there was a lot of manuscripts and there's a short time gap.
That
That
is
doesn't
well,
prove
okay.
anything.
All right, can I respond to that point?
Yep.
Point by point. This is what critical scholars, or maybe not the critical scholars because they're liberals and they're dishonest.
Not
but
all of
this
them are
is
liberals,
what
but
this is what textual critics use to gauge ancient history, whether it's authentic. If you want to use a different method, go right ahead. But I'm showing you what textual critics actually use. Okay. Now, what liberal scholarship will do is they will prop up other means and other things
You're
that
really
are
good
not
at
used
straw
by.
manning people,
Hold
right?
on, hold on. No, no, no. I'm not straw manning,
You
sir.
are though. You're saying the
Okay, now
entire
you're
field
cutting
is
me off. I
liberal.
was in the middle of making a point. I
Is
didn't
Robert
cut you
Price
off.
liberal?
I was in the middle of making a point. I
Is
didn't cut
Robert
you off.
Price liberal?
I admit, yes. I
No,
was
he's
in the
not.
middle. Robert Price
No, he's
is
not.
a critical scholar. Is a critical scholar. He's
But
part
he's
of the
not a
Jesus
liberal.
Seminar.
That's my point.
He's
You
part
keep
of the
saying
Jesus
that there's
Seminar.
like this equivalency with liberalism.
John Dominic Crossan. They're all liberals. All of them. Every single one of them.
No, they're
Okay?
not. Robert Price is
They're
not a
all-
liberal. I
they're
just
from
told
the-
you one that wasn't a liberal,
They're
and you're
from
like
the
still
Jesus
saying it.
Seminar.
Okay.
Robert Price. It sounds familiar. Robert Price.
Yeah, he's not a liberal.
But that's besides the point I'm making here. The point I'm making here is that the liberal scholarship, critical scholars, are propping up these things that you have deemed to be tests for authenticity when they're not.
I think
Okay?
Richard
And
Carrier
you
has
just
the
proved
best
it. You
method.
just
though. No,
proved
I
it.
didn't know.
Yes,
I
you
didn't
did. You
prove
just proved
anything.
it by saying, "Oh, that's not a test for history." Yes, it is.
I didn't say that.
You
You
just
don't
said
listen
that.
at all. You really don't
You
listen at
just
all.
said that. Can I
You have a
rewind
problem.
this tape?
You have a
Hold
problem
on, I'm going
listening.
to rewind this tape.
Yeah,
gonna
you'll hear
rewind
me.
this
I'll
tape,
say
please.
exactly what I said. You want to hear it word for word? I
Go
can
ahead.
actually
Go ahead.
repeat
What
it.
did you say? What did you?
There is not a one-to-one correlation with the bibliographical test with historicity. That doesn't necessarily prove historicity.
Okay.
It can,
okay.
it
So
can lean
nothing.
towards it,
Hold on.
but just because
This
you
is the
have
problem.
a bunch
This is
of
the problem.
manuscripts,
Let me respond to that. Okay, you're saying nothing. These things do not prove historicity.
no, I'm
Then
saying
what?
they can. Right?
Okay,
They
there
can,
you
but it
go.
doesn't
There you
solely-
go, buddy. There
But
you
you're,
go. Okay.
but once again,
Hold
you're
on,
trying
hold
to say
on,
it does.
hold on,
You're trying to
hold
say
on,
it
hold on,
emphatically
hold on,
does, and that's it.
Hold on. If this can't, if these two tests cannot, what can prove authenticity? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
look at Richard Carrier's other work, right? There's the
Don't
Bayes
give me
theorem.
a name. Don't give me a name.
Yeah,
Give me
it's
a
called-
methodology. Hold on. I want to get this straight before the night is over. Don't give me a name of Richard Carrier. Give me their methodology. What method? If
Yeah,
you don't want
he
to
has an
accept, hold
entire book on the
Let
method.
me finish, sir.
Okay.
Let me finish. Hold your mute your mic until I'm done the question. If you don't want to accept the criterion that I gave you, the
Yep.
gap between the earliest manuscript and the events that are chronicled, the sheer number of manuscripts that exist, and there's a reason why the sheer number of manuscripts is a test, because you didn't write in ancient times. You didn't write bullshit. You didn't write historical fiction. It was too expensive. The endeavor was too expensive to waste time writing things that didn't actually happen. Okay?
That is
That's
crazy.
why.
Nobody says that.
Don't criticize it. Don't criticize what credible scholars have suggested is the criteria. What I want you to do right now in the next 20 seconds
So
is tell me.
yeah.
Hold on. Let me get it out. I want you to give me the alternative test. If you don't want to accept their criteria, give me your criteria. Don't give me a name. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so you keep saying literary criticists, right? That's
Literary-
not necessarily the case. The only people who use the bibliographical test are Christian apologists. This is a very small group of lit crit people, right?
No, these are conservative scholars. These are conservative scholars. I want you.
No,
to
but
hear
they're
my-
they're
did you
specifically
hear
Christian
my question,
apologists.
sir? Did you hear my? Don't criticize our test.
I'm giving you my
Okay,
answer.
Don't tell me.
I'm
Oh, it's
giving you
only
my
Christians
answer.
that do this. Give
You
me
don't wanna listen.
your test. Hold on.
You
hold
don't
on.
want to listen.
Hold on, my guy. I gave you a very simple task and you couldn't do it. I want you to give me your test.
No, I was doing
What
it.
are you using?
You cut me
Hold on.
off to tell me that I'm not doing it.
Sir,
I could
don't
be
run.
still answering you,
Don't
but
run.
instead you want to sit here and
He's
repeat that I
running.
need
He's
to answer
running.
you. Yeah, you're
Please,
a strange
if you're
person
going
to
to
talk to.
criticize,
I've not
it's-
come across anything like this. This is wild.
I'll wait. I'll wait till you're done.
Yeah, no,
'Cause I'm
you wanted
really
me
not
to
afraid
answer
of
your
your words.
question,
You seem
and
to
you
be
cut
afraid
me
of
off
mine.
to
So go
tell me
ahead,
to
go
answer
ahead.
your question. You're very circular. You're like, hey, answer my question. And then I start answering it, and then you don't like something, and you're like, hold on. You need to answer my question some more. It's like, okay, if you would have let me keep talking, I would have answered your question that you originally asked me that I understand. I understand the method you want, right? That's what I was going into. You want me to continue?
Okay, so I want you to give me your criteria. I gave you mine. I gave you what you tried to limit to only Christians. No, this is
No,
all.
it is. It's
No,
emphatically
no.
that.
Don't do that. Don't do that, sir. Don't criticize our method. Give me the method you're using to determine whether or not an ancient text
Yeah.
is
So
reliable.
I'm
Go ahead.
fond of Richard Carrier's method, which
Can
is
you give us the method, sir? Methodology, not
it's
the person.
crazy that literally
Not the
right when I'm going to
person,
say
sir.
it.
You
So
can't do it.
literally right when I'm going to say it, you
Okay,
keep cutting me
you keep
off. Like
saying
you
Richard
can't.
Carrier. Richard
can't-
Carrier
no,
is a person.
I'm not
What
saying
method?
that. I'm not
What
saying
method
that.
is he using?
Okay.
What criteria? Go ahead.
Yeah, which I was literally going to say. I'm literally going to say it, and then you cut me off. This is the
Say
fourth
it.
time.
Say it. Get it out.
It's
Go
called
ahead.
the Bayes theorem, right? And I need to state.
Bayesian theorem.
No, it's called Bayes theorem. Now
Bayes
listen.
theorem. Go ahead. Tell us what Bayes theorem is. What is the criteria?
The reason I bring up Richard Carrier while
Give
bringing up
us
Bayes
the
theorem.
criteria, not a
Damn,
title.
dude,
of
you
a
are
criteria.
impossible to talk to.
Give
It's
us the
crazy.
criteria. Why are you giving? I gave you two. The earliest,
Ah,
the gap between the extant manuscript and the event chronicle. That's one. Secondly,
No, I
our
understand.
scholars are looking at the sheer number of manuscripts. So the more manuscripts you have, the more authentic your writing is said to be. Give us what your criteria is, what Carrier's criteria is for judging whether or not
It
an
doesn't.
ancient text is
So
reliable.
you
Go ahead.
misunderstand the.
I'll
so-
mute and I'll wait for that
Yeah,
answer.
yeah. So you've misunderstood the bibliographical test, and you claim to know it better than I do. But when they claim authenticity, that does not correlate to historicity. It just means that it's probably a real writing that comes from somewhere in the past. Doesn't mean that it's a historical event. Mythology is well attested for, right? There are mythological tales that pass the bibliographical test throughout in history, but they don't necessarily mean that they were historical events. There's not a one-to-one correlation there. The reason I'm bringing up Richard Carrier when I'm mentioning Bayes' theorem is because he wrote an entire book on how it works, and at the same time disproving or trying to prove, right, and while trying to prove the historicity of Jesus, ends up disproving it, right? And the probability test of the Bayesian or the Bayes theorem is quite involved. It takes a book to lay out, right? It has a very general assessment. I can tell you that it has to do with probabilities, right? And particulars, and comparing particulars, and creating classes, and then comparing them to mythologies, what he would call mythicization. There's all these
So
parts to it.
you have absolutely nothing. You have no criteria for determining.
It's an
whether or
entire
not-
set of criteria that would
You have
take us
nothing.
hours
Give
to
us
go
one.
through.
I gave you two. You're not giving me anything. You're just giving me a bunch of babble. Give me
bunch of babble.
something I can put my finger on and say, I could use this as a test. You can go ahead and criticize our test or what critical scholars, textual critics have professionals who actually study ancient manuscripts. You can deny what their test is. I want your test. You can't give me a test because your scholars are not giving you facts. They're giving you innuendo.
Well, no, they're
and you're
giving a
following
bunch
it.
of facts where you
Then
have to
give me
compare
the
them.
test. Give
Yeah,
me
and you
how
create-
did they determine whether or not the text that is in the Bible, the New Testament, was reliable or not? How? Did they compare it to other ancient manuscripts, or they
Yes,
comparing
that's
them
one part of it. Yeah, mythicism. So you take a bunch of mythological texts and you find key motifs, and then you create ratios. It's like a sort of mathematics. You create probability ratios. You say, well, all these guys are using the same motif, exact same motif in the past, right? This is why these people are mythicists, because all the stories that are in the Old Testament and the New Testament have been told for thousands of years.
We're
They're
not talking about whether or not they believed in Jesus's existence or not.
That is
Okay,
exactly
so
what we're talking about.
We're talking about whether or not
That's what
the
we're talking about right now. What are you talking about?
the actual writings correspond to reality of what they were teaching.
No,
Okay,
no. That's
When we
not
say-
what I'm talking about.
When we say
We're on
9/11,
different pages.
let me give an example. When we say
Wait,
9/11
we agree
happened,
then. Why are we even arguing?
When we say 9/11 happened, we don't
Wait, why are we
suggest.
arguing?
Excuse me, can I finish my point, please?
But we agree. Why are we arguing?
Can I finish my point?
You agree with me that he's not historical. Why are we
Can I
arguing?
finish my point, please? It is historical. That is a test. The bibliographic test is a test for.
Wait, what did you just mean a second ago when you said
The
he's not
bibliographic test is a test for historicity.
No, you just
It
said
is.
he wasn't historical.
Sorry.
Now you're saying he's historical. Which
No,
one
no,
is
no.
it?
I was talking about 9/11. I was giving you an analogy.
Before the
about
9/11 analogy, you said Jesus was not historical, and now you're
I
saying
never
he
said
is.
that. I never said Jesus was not historical. You're not even listening.
Okay.
Take the time to listen. Before
Rewind it. Rewind it.
Trying to listen before you speak.
Okay.
Okay. The test for bibliographic support is a test for historicity.
No, it's not. It's
it is.
authenticity. No, it's
Okay.
not.
It's
It can
for-
be of a fairy tale. You can take a fairy tale and run it to the bibliographical test.
Okay. And what happens when you do that?
You can prove if it's an authentic manuscript that comes from the past, and that
Okay.
there's a succession where it comes down a long line, and you prove it. That's why, like the Nag Hammadi helped the bibliographical test. It helps support it. The Dead Sea Scrolls. It helps confirm its authenticity.
Okay. When we say history, are we talking about being able to 100% with 100% certainty? This, unless you're there, no one has 100% certainty whether or not 9/11 happened.
Yeah, like did Jesus die on the cross and rise again?
Hold on.
That's
See,
what I'm saying.
Hold on, my guy. Let me finish my point. Okay, you're getting to a point where what we call absurdity or what we call ultra skepticism. No one was at 9/11. Okay, none of us. Hold on. Let me finish my point. I was there because I'm from New York City, but let's say I wasn't.
Yeah.
All I would be able to do is find resources about the event.
It's not
I
even
would not.
close.
I would not. Hold on. I would not be able to say with 100% certainty historically that the event actually happened. So stop with the we don't know historically.
that's what they claim.
Taking historicity and making it stand on all fours.
You
as
don't even
if,
know your own position.
Okay,
This is
okay,
crazy. So
historicity
Jesus
and
historicists believe that he
authenticity,
literally
I
died on the
think, are
cross and rose
interchangeable.
again historically.
Okay?
But that
Prove
is a
me wrong.
historical fact.
Okay, you're saying historical fact has to be something you can prove with 100%.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay,
What?
so what is a historical fact?
Something that's actually at least plausible. Like I can at least
So
like look,
miracles are not
somebody
plausible,
flying
they
a
can't
plane
be
into a
historical.
building does
So
not sound far fetched.
miracles are not plausible, so they can't be historical. Thank you.
No, I'm
liberal
not even
scholar.
saying that. I'm
Thank
not
you,
even
liberal
saying that.
scholar. Thank you. Thank
I'm
you
not
for
even
the
saying that
knowledge.
because I believe in miracles.
Okay,
I do.
so
I do believe
then
that.
what is history? Why are you bringing into things that are plausible into history? History is what's recorded. They
Because they're
recorded what they
saying that this
saw.
event
They
happened,
recorded what they
right?
experienced.
There's
That's
this
history.
event. There's
That's
this
history.
event.
Sorry.
Okay, continue.
That's history. History is people recording things that they witnessed, not things that are plausible. The
No, it
history
is
of
though.
the history
What
of
most historians
Greco-Roman-
are trying to
history
do
of-
is they're trying
the
to
history
tell
of the
the truth.
Greco-Roman. the
Damn,
history
dude,
of
you're
the
impossible to
Greco-Roman
talk to.
gods-
It's
The
bad.
history of the Greco-Roman gods is history. It's fake.
Oh
It's
my God.
mythology.
So you're agreeing
is
with me to a
history.
certain extent. It's so crazy how you move the goalpost. You're like, well, Jesus was an actual historical event. Him dying and resurrecting is the truth.
What?
It's a historical event. That's true. But you know, it doesn't have to be true. You know, because like the Greek gods weren't. What are you
No,
saying? What are you
no, I never-
saying right now?
I actually didn't say that. But
You just
go ahead.
said that the Greek pantheon, the stories written about it, is history, but it's not true. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying history has to do with true events and trying to stay faithful to recording true events.
But we're not.
That's
But
what
we're not.
history is.
We're not determining when I write about 9/11. I'm not determining that I was there to witness the events. I am going off of
That's not
reports
what I'm
I got
saying.
from
What?
CNN. I'm going off of reports I got from MSNBC.
That's not what I'm
from-
claiming. I'm not saying somebody had to be
Okay,
there. It's
okay,
an actual
so-
event.
so
Like,
then-
is it hard
then
for you to
why are we
believe that planes fly into a building? Is it really that hard for you to
Okay,
believe
is-
that a plane could fly into a building?
Is it really that hard for you to believe that a man can rise from the dead?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with historicity?
Play
Nothing.
that back. Play what
It
you
has
just
nothing
said
to
back.
do with historicity.
You said that I was absurd.
You cannot prove something
You
is
said
not
that I was
historical.
absurd, and then you
Yes.
just said, "Is it really crazy to believe that
Let me
somebody can
tell
die?"
you why.
And then
Let me tell you why. You're
and
just
not die?
repeating. You're just repeating. Let me tell you why. Because you cannot just discount something as being historical because it contains something that is extraordinary or miraculous. I don't use that as my criteria.
is that
You
the
might.
only? Is that the
Richard
only
might.
criteria
Richard
that I've
Carrier
used?
does that with his Bayesian
Is
theory.
that the only
That's
criteria
what
that I've
he
used?
does. He takes things that are supernatural and he lowers the probability. That affects
Okay,
the
so-
overall. That affects the overall veracity of the event.
So when does it? So
then
after
he
you've
concludes
compiled
it's
40
not
or 50
historical.
or
It's
60
not
different, you don't want to hear it,
Oldest-
man. It's
the
tough.
oldest trick in the book, and you fell for it, buddy.
So when
you
you
felt
add 60 of these, 70
we-
of these, right? Let's say 80 of these points, right?
So
that are
we have
different
your
and they all
criteria
correspond.
now, and we realize it's bullshit. You cannot discount or lower the probability of a historical event because it is a
You
miraculous.
used 2 points. The bibliographical
BS.
test uses 2 points,
That's
right? The
liberal
Bayesian
scholarship.
theory, the Bayesian theorem in Richard Carrier's work of proving history, literally has like dozens of points. And you're like,
Well, the
oh, that's
first point-
bullshit.
the
He's
first point
cherry
doesn't work.
picking. Those are innuendos. Those are
First
just
point doesn't work.
factoids.
You cannot lower the probability of an
The
event
only thing that I've heard from you so far is that there's a bunch of
Because-
manuscripts.
because that's the test that credible scholars use. Richard
No,
Carrier,
apologists
obviously,
use it.
He's not a credible scholar. He's not
Yeah,
a
he is.
textual critic.
What? He's a doctor.
He's
What
not
are
a
you talking
textual
about?
critic. That's
Okay.
why he's a minority. It's
He's
only
a
two of them,
minority?
Richard Carrier and Price. They're a minority amongst thousands of scholars who
All right,
use
man, we just have
actual
to agree to
criteria
disagree, man.
that
It's tough.
actual
Tough talking
scholars
with you on
and
this subject
textual critics use. Why aren't you? Why are you using Bayesian?
because it's
I
a
mean,
very universal
Bayesian
and general theory that
probability
anyone can
has
use.
to do with secularism. They're coming in with
Oh,
presupposing
wow.
that miracles don't happen. Therefore, if your story includes a miracle, we can lower the probability that it
Oh.
happened. Very dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Very dangerous way to do history, buddy.
You don't believe in history.
I would stick with the bibliographic support.
You
or
don't
the
believe in
bibliographic
history, though.
test. I would stick with that rather than this.
Me
this
and you agree to a certain extent. You don't even buy history.
This anti-supernaturalistic approach.
This is
That's
not.
that's a biased approach.
This is not what
okay.
this is.
You're going to eliminate good history.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you
by
this.
those methods. You're going
Let
to
me ask you
eliminate
this.
good histories.
You don't believe in history. You've already admitted that. That history
You're
has
gonna
nothing to do
eliminate-
with truth
You're going to
or
eliminate
if something really
actual
happened or
true
not.
stories because you have a liberal
You've
anti-supernatural.
already admitted that history is not real. You've already claimed that. So we're beyond that. What I
Now
need to
here
hear
comes
from
the
you, though,
straw man. Oh, I admit it. History is not real.
You just said it has nothing to do with proving history true. It's just a written account of events, what somebody may have heard or witnessed, could have witnessed, doesn't necessarily have to witness. History is loose to you. It's a loose term. So we're not even really debating anymore about the historicity of Jesus being a true thing. You've moved the goalpost. So we need to move on for that. But let me ask you this, though. Why does Christianity boil down to faith if Jesus is proven historically? Why is faith a thing?
Well, I mean, our test is foolproof. It's been proven. You can laugh at it, but I laugh at your test because your test.
Are you going to answer my question?
I didn't answer your question.
I
Your
just
test
answered. I just asked you a direct question.
I didn't cut you off. I didn't cut you off, please. Your test acknowledges the fact that anti-supernaturalist bias plays a major part in the decision to call it history. Okay, my method just simply examines manuscript reliability. That's all it does.
Did you not hear my question? Maybe the mic messed up or something.
So that's the bottom line. So we can move on to what was your question?
So you didn't hear my question. You didn't hear it.
No, what was your question?
Okay.
You had several.
If Jesus is a historical fact, right? He's provable historically. Why is faith the cornerstone of Christianity? What does faith have to do with it?
Faith, okay, so we're moving on from the bibliographic test in your test that liberal scholars use, which is just designed to promote anti-Christian, anti-supernaturalist bullshit. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to put doubt in the reader's mind about history itself, that history itself cannot include miracles or supernatural events. And if they do, we're going to lower the reliability.
Are you not understanding my question? We're not talking about methodology anymore. Remember, we moved away from that. Are you not hearing my question?
We're just summarizing your blunder.
Okay, got it. Got it.
So the biblical test, the bibliographic test that credible textual critics actually use, not the bullshit that liberal scholars write books about so they can sell books and make money.
You're doing circles. We're peeling out right now.
Is the sheer number of manuscripts in the Bible 6,000? Actually, the Greek New Testament
sounds like you're dancing around my question.
Yeah, the Greek New Testament is close to 6,000. Okay, I'll get to your question because
you said this already. Everything you said, we've got it. The crowd's got it. Chat's got it. Yep.
Okay, and compared to ancient manuscripts, the Bible, the gap between the Bible and its surviving
40, 70 years. Got it.
About 40 years.
Got it.
Let me give you an example before we move forward of another writing that we consider 100% historical. That we consider, well, Livy is 400 years, but I got Pliny the Elder. Now let's take Caesar, Gallic Wars. Let's take Caesar Gallic Wars. Date, it was written supposedly 100 BC.
Mm-hmm.
The earliest surviving manuscript is the 9th century CE. That's a time gap of 1,000 years.
You do know that, like, in the New Testament, it literally preaches to.
We teach it in university. Yet we teach it as fact.
You're missing a crucial
now,
component.
let's move forward. That's
but wait, though. You made a great point that needs a rebuttal. A great point. The main part that you're missing that supports the bibliographical test in favor of the New Testament is that intrinsic to the New Testament is the mission of spreading the gospel. The Caesar's Gallic Wars is not meant to go travel. It's not meant to put in the hands of followers to go preach it. Right? Literally, the New Testament says, "Spread this as far and wide as you can, and write as much of it as you can." So I hope that they did the work. I hope that they started writing manuscripts.
The point is that it is a history. The point is that the point I was making before the red herring. The point I was making is that it is a history, and it is taught as authentic history. Even though
how is what I said
even though the time gap is
do you know what a red herring is?
So yes, I do. It's a distraction. You're trying to.
How is what I said a distraction?
I'm showing you right now.
It literally deals with it.
I'm showing you right now, but you're cutting me off. And you won't allow me to speak. I'm showing you why it's a distraction.
You've done that all night.
Because the point I was making was not about what it entailed, whether it entailed histories, whether it entailed.
I didn't say that. I said the spreading of it. The reason there's so many manuscripts is because it's literally telling the people to spread it.
It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
It literally matters. It's saying, hey, write this down and spread it as far as possible.
Was that it is a history, and people take
you
it
won't acknowledge that.
What
it's a red herring.
The person wrote about, what Livy wrote about, what Tacitus wrote about, is considered history.
None of those say, hey, spread this history as far and wide as possible as you can right now because your life depends on it. The immortality of your soul depends on this message. Spread it.
So you can't use time gaps as a way to discredit the New Testament. That's the only point I'm making with bringing up the time
Yeah,
gaps.
I
of the
destroyed those
verse.
points just now. I
Right, so let's
utterly
move forward.
obliterated them. Yeah, those
So
points
your
have been
question is,
obliterated.
your question was, it's supposed to be on faith.
Yeah.
So why do we believe things that are on faith?
No, my point was why is there a historical Jesus, right? If there is a historical Jesus that's provably historical, because it's just everyone knows that, right? The bibliographical test proves it, right? Well, why
Yeah.
do we have to have faith? We just know. We have the historical records. Jesus was a real person. He died on the cross, man. Everyone's a dummy.
What is the Bible saying? What is the Bible teaching to have faith in? Are you doing an internal critique, or are you just taking?
Yeah, no, it's literally having the faith in his resurrection, in the things
Okay.
that happen because we're so distant from them.
Right. Okay.
Paul didn't even see the real Jesus.
Paul
Paul
didn't see
saw
the
an
real
apparition in Damascus, like
An aberration.
an apparition. He saw
What is that?
like a phantom. He didn't see
Is
the
that,
real
is that a
body.
biblical? Is that the biblical meaning definition of what happened?
He didn't see the fleshly
Is that
Christ.
the
No,
biblical
he saw a
definition of what happened? Are you making up your
Yes.
own story?
Yeah, no, it was a
Did
vision.
it say phantom in the biblical story?
No, a vision. He saw a
Does it
vision.
say
of Christ.
vision in the biblical story?
Yes,
No, it does not.
he did have a vision.
You
on the road
made
to
that up.
Damascus.
See, this is why. Stop reading liberal scholarship, sir.
What did it? What did,
Start reading conservative. more
did he see the
conservative-
physical
Here,
Christ? Did he
here's what I
live
would
during?
suggest to you. Here's what I would
Did
suggest.
Paul live during the Jesus
Here's
Christ
what I would
life?
suggest to you, sir. Start reading more conservative
What
literature.
you're doing is red herring.
I do
right?
both. Well,
You're
hold on,
trying
hold on.
to
I'm gonna
dis-
tell you-
you're
hold on,
trying
I'm
to
gonna- hold
you're
on,
trying
my
to
guy,
throw
my
me
guy,
off
can you stop
by
talking for
saying
5 seconds? My
Paul
guy.
didn't live
I'm
during
going to
Jesus'
show you-
life. You know it.
Hold on. I'm going to show you in the text where it doesn't say vision. But before I do that,
Okay.
I want to give you some advice. I read both liberal and critical scholars, what I call
The
liberal
liberals
scholars.
are crit scholars. You
Yes,
admitted that.
right. I call them
Yeah.
liberal scholars.
I
People
read
get
both.
upset.
I'm a
Hold on,
conservative.
No, you
I'm a
don't, sir.
conservative.
Okay,
You're
so
talking
why
to
didn't
the
you
most
know?
hardcore conservative
So why are
probably
you
you've
still
met.
falling? Why are you still falling for these same old 1980s tropes?
They're
These
not
liberal
tropes.
talking points.
You're unfamiliar with it.
Why are you
You
still
don't know what
falling
you're
for
talking
them?
about.
I don't know. He hasn't called anyone a liberal yet, so I don't know how conservative he truly is. So, till he calls someone a liberal, you're not conservative around these parts, right?
Okay, let me show you in the Bible.
This has been a fantastic thunderfuck of this poor kid. Like, what the hell is this? I kind of feel bad, and it's funny, but it's terrible at the same time. But he's getting out his nice little points, so it's really nice.
This is where you're getting them from. You're getting them from liberal scholars or critical
Yeah.
scholars.
Show me how
Okay,
the
let
word
me
was
show you
wrong.
in the Bible where
Yep.
it does not say vision. Liberal scholars added that to their critique.
Yeah.
They added that, sir.
No, it's a description.
It's a show. No, there's no.
He
There's
did
no,
not know the real Jesus.
There is
Jill,
no
you're-
mention. Don't move the
no
goalpost.
Christian claims
Don't
that Paul
move the
lived
goalpost.
during
You
Jesus'
said
time.
vision.
You
You
don't
said
understand what
vision.
you're saying.
You said vision. Let's
Oh,
go
okay.
to the text. Let's go
Okay.
to the text. Let's dispel that myth first
Okay.
before we move on to several others that you have from liberal scholars. Okay. All right. So did Paul see a vision, or did he see the actual Jesus risen? Let's go to the text. Okay.
Okay.
Did Paul see a vision? You should have done this yourself. I shouldn't have to be doing this for you because liberal scholars actually told you he saw a vision, and you actually didn't read the text.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Paul experienced a bright light and heard Jesus speak to him.
Okay.
That's not a vision. He
Gotcha.
actually saw the risen Jesus. The Bible doesn't mention anything in the text about a vision. So why are liberal scholars saying that Paul saw a vision? I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah, because he wasn't in the
they
flesh.
interpret-
He
Hold on.
wasn't in the flesh. You know
Hold on.
exactly what they're
Well, no
describing.
one-
He didn't live during
Did
Jesus'
come
life.
back in the flesh, sir. Jesus came back in the flesh and
No, he
revealed
didn't.
himself to Thomas. He said, "Touch me.
No, no,
This
no,
is
no.
bone of my bone,
Okay,
flesh
now
of my
you don't know
flesh."
scripture. Now you don't know scripture
Stop.
because Paul
Please,
emphatically
please,
says that he
sir.
wasn't in the flesh.
You're not, sir.
Paul says that the
Sir,
believers.
sir, let me tell
Listen,
you why
Paul
you were
literally says that he's not in the
Tell you-
flesh.
Let me tell you why you were fooled. Okay, you were.
You're
fooled.
lying, though. You're literally lying.
I can go to the actual text.
Paul never admits to seeing Jesus in the flesh. He actually says the opposite. He says we will no longer ever see him in the flesh.
Okay.
He emphatically says that, and then he ties sin to flesh.
Okay.
He never saw Jesus in the
My
flesh.
argument was there's no mention of a vision. Okay.
That's the
The
descriptive
reason, the
term.
reason
He's
why
seeing a blinding light.
you're doing no, that was my intention. That my intention was to show you this is not a vision. Paul saw the risen Christ. The risen Christ appeared bodily, not just spiritually.
No, he ascended to heaven. No, he left the body, bro. That your
left the
timeline's way
body?
off. Paul did not
He
live
left-
during the disciples' lifetime. He
left
didn't
the
live
body.
during the lifetime of Jesus. Okay, this is way after. Jesus is already come and gone. He's left the world in his body. Then he
Okay.
sees Jesus again.
Okay.
Jesus is back and he's not in a body. And he
He's not in the
emphatically
body?
states it. He
Where
literally
did-
says he's not in the flesh. Literally, look up the
When?
text.
Where? Acts
I'll
what?
pull it up. I'll find the
Yeah,
text.
pull it up. Pull it up for
From
us.
Paul.
Paul never teaches that it was a vision. The Bible doesn't teach it was a vision. So why are liberal scholars teaching that, and why do you believe that?
No, it is a vision. It's just descriptive of his
Show us-
experience.
Show us in the text where it says it's a vision. Go ahead. Acts chapter, verse, book, chapter, and verse.
2 Corinthians 5:16. We regard no one according to the flesh.
That what? That has nothing to do with the vision he saw on the road to Damascus, sir. Do you
Okay,
need to
listen, no,
find the text?
you are literally wrong. So listen.
Find the text then.
After his
The road to
conversion,
Damascus.
no,
Acts chapter what?
he
9?
explicitly states that he includes Jesus.
Acts chapter 9. What happened on the road to Damascus? Let's read.
You,
I'll read it
why
for
are
you.
you changing? You're
I'll read
really
it for
good
you.
at straw
No,
man.
you're not
It's
gonna run.
crazy. I hope
You're not
people
going to
listening
run.
understand
You
how
said-
deceptive you
You
are.
said Paul had a vision.
You are
Okay?
very deceptive.
Did you say Paul had a vision or not? Yes or no?
Yeah, and you know that
Let's
that's
go
what
to the
happened.
text and let's see if Paul
He
had a
saw
vision.
Jesus with his eyes.
Hold on. Okay. Let's see if it's
That's
a
called a
vision.
vision, right? Literally, by
call it a-
definition, that's a vision.
Thank you. You call it a vision, and so does liberal scholarship. But it is the text does not
Most
say.
biblical scholars say a vision.
No, it
Even
does
the
not.
ones that say he saw
Oh,
him in flesh.
Sorry, you lose again, buddy. The text does not say it was a
Well,
vision.
the text don't. The description of what he went through, they call it a
That's
vision.
your
Yeah,
interpretation.
pastors do that. Yep.
Your
Catholics do
interpretation.
it.
Oh, I've never heard a
Orthodoxes
pastor
do it.
say vision. I've never had a pastor say vision. Never.
So
That's
why
what
did
your
he say in
pastor-
Corinthians?
that's
You
what
still
your
dodge it.
pastors
You still
say.
dodge it. He
That's
includes
what your
Jesus.
pastors say. Your pastors say that. Richard Carrier says that. The Four Horsemen said that when they were around. Christopher Hitchens said that. Sam Harris said that. But no Bible critical scholar says that. No Bible scholar says that. You are the only guys that are saying that. That's why I said you need to surround yourself with more conservative scholars when it comes to these things, because they're actually getting their teachings, their doctrines from the actual text. And that's how they build their theology and the historicity of what happened or what they at least said happened.
Okay.
The liberal scholars are not doing that. They're reading
Check this
into
out.
the text, and this is a
Read
perfect.
literally, Paul is saying it word for word.
They're
I'm going to read it to you one more time. Okay. I'm going to read it to you one more
Acts
time because
chapter
what you're doing means nothing. Because literally,
What are
Paul
you
says
reading?
that
What are you
Jesus
reading
is
from?
not in flesh.
What are
Okay.
you
Listen.
reading from? Acts chapter 9?
Corinthians.
Corinthians
where-
is not telling you the story of where Jesus met
He's telling
Paul.
you the timeline in Corinthians. He's saying once Jesus died, he said once Jesus died and rose, he never had a body again. This is literally in Corinthians.
No, actually, Paul taught that Jesus was forever in a body.
Okay, no, let's read it. You ready?
He's
Okay,
forever
read with me,
God.
brother. Read with me, brother in Christ. Check it out. And he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised again. So
He
from
is
now
raised
on,
again.
it's not done. Listen, he literally goes
He
on to
is
say what
raised
happened.
again. What are you talking about? He's
Are you
raised.
gonna let
bodily.
Paul finish? You
He's
sound really
raised in the
silly right
body.
now.
What are you talking? Okay, how
You
does
sound
that
really
wait,
silly
wait,
right
wait,
now
wait,
because
wait,
Paul is
wait, wait,
continuing
hold
to
on,
say
hold
that he
on,
doesn't have a
hold on.
body.
Hold on. I want to try to get an idea of what you're trying to look for, so that you don't try to move
Yeah.
the goalpost.
So
again.
while
Okay,
you
so
were
you're
doing
looking
that,
for Paul- you're
while
looking
you
for
were doing
Paul-
that, let me
Hold on,
finish
no,
reading it.
You're looking. I'm going to say.
So from
what I
now
think.
on, no, this is
Okay, are you
this is out of the
looking for
Bible.
Paul to
So
say-
from now on, when we regard,
You-
so from now on, we regard no one
You
according to
got
the flesh.
cut. You got cut, buddy.
Although we once, no, I'm literally
Okay,
reading it
all
right
right, so
now.
let's get this
Although we once
All right, go
regarded
ahead,
Christ in
go
this
ahead.
way, although we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away; behold, the new has come. Literally, he says it right there. So from now on, we regard no one according to the flesh. Although we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer. What does that mean?
So are you looking for Paul to say? I'm trying to get down to the nitty where the,
Yeah.
the rubber meets the road. Are
Didn't
you
have a
looking
body.
for hold on. Just relax. Just take a deep breath for a second. Are you looking for Paul to say that Jesus rose without a body? Or is that what you're looking for?
No,
when you say
that's not what I said. If you
Okay.
listen, what I said is after he rose again and he ascended, he's no longer fleshly, and he states
Can
it
you
clearly. He
demonstrate
says we regard no one according to the flesh. Although we once
that has
regarded
nothing
Christ,
to do with Jesus' resurrection, sir?
it literally
But Paul-
it
hold
says
on,
it in the same
hold on,
line.
hold on,
It
let
says
me pull up that
although we
text.
once regarded
Hold on,
Christ in
hold
this
on.
way,
we
we
regard no
do
one.
so no longer.
We regard no one by the flesh. What does that mean?
Continue. He says Christ. Although we once regarded Christ in this
mean?
way,
We
we do
regard
so no longer.
What does that mean?
It means Christ is no longer fleshly.
No, that is not speaking about Christ.
It literally says that, bro. I
Hold on,
can't talk
hold
to you
on. Let me
anymore.
read that in
Hey, I'm just gonna have to agree to
Hold on.
disagree.
I'm
We
going to
don't-
read that in context. I'm going to read that in
Bro,
context.
no, I don't need your
You're
interpretation.
misinterpreting the text. You're
Bro,
misreading the text. The text
you're
has
a
nothing
terrible
to do with
debater.
Jesus' resurrection. That's why you ran away from Acts 9 because you were defeated in Acts 9.
No,
You're
this
trying to
supports
go to
Acts
some
9.
obscure text.
You
You're
are
trying to go
relying
to
solely on Acts 9 to say that he had a body. It doesn't say he had a body
nothing to do-
anywhere in Acts
okay.
9.
So I'm going to read 2 Corinthians 5, okay, in context to show you that it has nothing to do with Christ's body, that he's in a body right now as we speak, sitting at the right hand of the Father. All Christians believe that. You don't know what.
Okay, so I think there might be something into what Hostile is saying, and I want to lay it out thick because where did Christ come from? But the Holy Spirit. So we know Christ not through the flesh, but through the Spirit, and that's kind of what Paul is talking about there. I just figured I'd say something, but I wasn't. But I might as well. Yeah, man, that's totally the Spirit. You know him through the Holy Spirit. It's identity. You don't need to know him through the flesh and person in person, because that's how you come to know him, through the Spirit, right? But I'm surprised Jill hasn't said that yet. I'll have to wait. Maybe he does.
the hell you're talking about. And
No,
neither
you
does
don't at all.
What the hell are you
don't know
talking
how to
about?
debate. You
Christ
sit
right
there and
now-
straw man
Christ
people. You
right
don't know what
now
you're talking about.
is sitting enthroned in heaven in a body. He is
Wow.
forever the God body, the man. He is forever the God, the man, the God man.
So he has
forever.
flesh.
Forever.
He has flesh.
Yes, forever.
Wow.
Yes. He's
I
in a
was-
glorified body right
that.
now. He is in a
Click that.
body.
Oh, a glorified
body is
body. Now it's a glorified
yes.
body.
It
Oh,
is a
okay.
glorified. Yes, Paul
Now
talks
it's a
about
glorified
that.
body.
You didn't know this?
We're
You
talking
didn't
about
know this,
flesh,
guy?
and you're comparing the glorified body of
All right,
Christ to flesh.
all right,
Dude,
I'm
that's
gonna read
silly.
I'm gonna read
No one
2
says that. The Bible doesn't
You
say
have
that.
no idea, sir. You don't know anything.
The Bible
about
does
theology.
not compare
You have
flesh to the
nothing- you
glorified
don't know
body of
anything about
Christ.
theology, my guy.
You have
All right,
no
so
clue what
I'm
you're
gonna
talking
read
about.
2 Corinthians 5. You got so desperate, you had to go outside of the actual event and talk about theology.
The actual event doesn't say he has a body.
Okay,
You didn't state
hold
that.
on.
Go back to
Well,
Acts.
We know.
Let's go back to
Well,
Acts.
we know. No.
Go back to Acts, bro. You wanted to go to Acts so bad. Go back to it.
2 Corinthians, so I'm going to stay in 2 Corinthians.
No,
And over here,
no.
trying to
You
make a
wanted to
point.
stay in Acts because you
Now
think
he's
it proves that it's a body. Go back to
Now-
Acts.
I'll wait. I'll wait till you're done. I'm going to
Yeah,
stay
go
in
back.
2
So,
Corinthians.
look,
I'm
you're
gonna
talking a lot of
stay in 2
shit, and you're
Corinthians. Try to
saying that
run.
you proved in
Try to
Acts
run
that he
to
had a
Acts
body.
9.
Go read
Now
it.
we're going to go. Now we're in 2 Corinthians. Now you're trying to
Go-
run back to Acts 9 again.
Go,
Come
well,
on,
you know,
guys.
you did. You said I was running from Acts. No, I'm saying let's go back.
Stop trying to be so slippery, man.
Slippery,
I'll wait
you
till
are literally the tongue of the serpent himself incarnate. You have to be the most slippery, silver-tongued person I've ever spoken to. Honestly, it's bad. It's unbearable. You told me I was running from Acts 9, and now you don't want to go back? You said that it says he has a body in Acts. Bro, that is outrageous. It doesn't say that anywhere. He was walking along the road to Damascus and then saw the flesh of Jesus Christ? What? Where does it say that? Nope. He heard the voice of him and saw a blinding light. There's no silhouette. There's no body. None of that is mentioned in Acts 9. So who knows what they're talking about? Do you? Do you know what you're talking about?
Well, that's another problem, because how can you say that, right? God being God, that he's gonna appear as light, and you're expecting a body, but he's showing you his body, and you're like, that's not the type of body. That's not a fleshly body, but it's Christ. And Paul even identifies him as such. It's kind of weird, man. All right, I know. Eventually, this rodeo stops, so I want to see what it does.
All
I'll
right, so I'm
probably
going
go.
to read 2 Corinthians 5, okay, in context to show you that this has nothing to do with Jesus' body, okay? All right, so for the love of Christ, this is verse 14, 2 Corinthians 5, verse 14.
I guess that's it. How unfortunate. Now what? What do we do now? I wonder if you can hear my daughter's alarm going off in the background. I guess I'll get going. I'll talk to you guys later. There is a later.